kindly consented to begin this session for us. And this is the way it goes. Donovan will make a few introductory remarks. We will take your questions. If you have any questions, and we expect you to have a lot, please key them into the Q&A feature here on Zoom. It's the only way we will see these questions and be able to address them. So cue them into the Q&A feature. He'll be able to see them. I'll be able to see them, and we'll address the questions. So actually, members of the media, you can begin asking questions right now. I'm sure you've got a lot in your head right now, so you can keep them in there. And the earlier you put them in, the quicker that we can deal with them. We have a limited amount of time, so we'll deal with as many as we possibly can. So thank you very much once again. Donovan, over to you.
Good morning, and thank you, Johnson. It's good to see you, my friend. It's good to be part of CTO media briefings, as always, to keep our media across the region fully briefed. Good morning again, and thank you for joining us virtually here. I am Donovan White, Jamaica's Director of Tourism. Although I wish you were all here in Jamaica for this briefing, I'm pleased to have the opportunity to share with you updates from the Jamaica Tourist Board. Of course, the dominant thing being talked about across the world is the pandemic. We've been living with this now for the last 17 months or so, and like every other destination, it has impacted Jamaica. I'm happy to note, though, that we recently welcomed our 1 millionth visitors since reopening our destination June 15 of 2020. Visitors obviously can feel very confident that the Jamaica Cares program is in place to protect them. Jamaica Cares includes our resilient corridors and our health and safety protocols. In fact, our protocols were the first to receive World Travel and Tourism Council Safe Travels recognition that allowed us to safely reopen the destination last year, June. The Jamaica Resilient Corridors, which cover more than 85% of Jamaica's tourism product and include less than 1% of our population, have recorded a COVID-19 infection rate of under 1%. In fact, the actual rate is 0.4 of a percentage point. As you are also aware, no doubt, Jamaica received a level 4 designation last week from the United States Centers of Disease Control and Prevention. And while Jamaica is one of the 77 countries around the world, including many of our Caribbean neighbors, to receive the level 4 designation, we remain confident that our resilient corridors and protocols will continue to take us on the right path to recovery. The health and safety of every Jamaican and every visitor to Jamaica remains our top priority, and we expect the level 4 designation will be short in its duration. What's important for your audience today to know ultimately is that Jamaica remains open for business and continues to welcome visitors safely. One of the ways we will clearly keep both our visitors and tourism workers safe is through vaccinations. As such, we have established a new tourism vaccination task force that aims to facilitate the administration of COVID-19 vaccinations to all tourism workers across the island. Under the leadership of Minister of Tourism, the Honorable Edmund Bartlett, the task force has organized a series of voluntary vaccination blitzes located at strategic sites across the country, and more specifically in our tourism dominant areas. The initiative aims to increase access to vaccinations for Jamaican tourism workers, including individuals working in hotels, villas and guest houses, attractions, airports, cruise ports, craft markets, as well as ground transportation operators, and most importantly, it also includes their families. Our target is to ensure that all of Jamaica's 170,000 tourism workers and their families are vaccinated and protected. This island-wide vaccination program will aid in our recovery efforts in the recovery efforts of the sector, and by extension, Jamaica. While we have all experienced challenges from this pandemic, we remain so grateful for the success we have had and I'm incredibly optimistic about the future of Jamaica's tourism industry. For those of you who have joined us for our CHTA press briefing back in May, you may recall we shared that 90% of our planned tourist investments in our destination is still on track. Approximately 4,800 rooms will be added by the end of 2023, amounting to a huge vote of confidence in our island nation. Notable projects for 2021 through 2023 include a new wing of the Oceans by H10 in Trelawney, which is phase 2 of their build, totaling 444 rooms. There's the Rock Hotel in Kingston, downtown Kingston, with 168 rooms. There's the Wyndham Kingston with 300 rooms. There's a Princess Hotel in Green Island, Hanover, with 2,000 rooms. And there is the Hard Rock Hotel and Casino in St. James with 1,700 rooms. We have also invested billions of dollars in updating the country's relevant infrastructure, including improvements to the island's 2 major airports and the development of beach facilities, regeneration of heritage sites, site buildings, and upgrading of piers and construction of national highway networks. We're also very grateful for the support of our airline partners, and I'm happy to report on some additional services coming up from some key markets, including Frontier Airline service from Atlanta to Montego Bay 3 times weekly starting November 1st. Frontier Airline service from Orlando to Montego Bay 3 times weekly starting November 2nd. Frontier Airline service from New Jersey to Montego Bay 3 times weekly starting December 17th. An American Airlines service from Philadelphia to Kingston 3 times weekly starting November 4. We want Jamaica to continue to be an easy destination, easy to go, easy to book, and easy to love. Last but definitely not least, I'd like to give special thanks to our wonderful Jamaican travel agent and tour operator partners worldwide. Our global sales teams work closely with these partners through efforts such as our Jamaica One Love program, which comes at no cost and provides travel advisors with extensive knowledge and educational tools to inform their clients about the incredible opportunities on our beautiful island. Those who become a Jamaica travel specialist can also earn points to spend in the One Love online store upon graduation from the program, as well as each time they sell Jamaica. Jamaica travel specialists traveling to the island receive discounts on lodging, among other perks, including airport VIP services. Recently, we relaunched the Travel Specialist Advisory Committee and expanded it to 11 members from 7. The committee is comprised of graduates of the Jamaica Tourist Board Specialists Program from across the US and Canada. Once again, very special thanks to all our travel industry partners and very special thanks to you in the media. You're absolutely vital to getting the message out that Jamaica is safe, open, and ready to serve both our loyal and first-time visitors. Of course, I'm always happy to take your questions because I know
we already have a number of these here. We already have a number of these. First off the bat, Gay Myers, she wants to know whether, of course, wants to know whether you'll be having JPEGs this year and whether it will, I guess she says virtually, and I presume by implication here, or in person.
Great one off the bat, Gay, and I'm sorry I can't see and hear you. I always love to hear your beautiful voice, of course. JPEGs will be staged. The date is now set for November the 8th to the 10th. It is likely to be a combination of virtual as well as in person. The virtual attendees will be from markets that are unable to travel at this time or are not likely to be able to travel come November, which will probably include Latin and South America and Europe to a large degree, and of course Asia. The in-person visit, or rather entrants or participants are likely to come from the United States and Canada. And so we are deep in planning now. I believe a save the date should be out this week, and they'll open the platform for registration for all participants, including our media colleagues like yourselves, Gay, which we hope to see in Jamaica in November.
We've got, you really do quite a bit, so we're going to try to deal with as many as possible. Laura in Trinidad wants to know whether Jamaica is considering any restrictions on travelers from the US. And second question, any plans to lift restrictions on travel from Trinidad and Tobago anytime soon?
Let me take the second one first. The travel restrictions on Trinidad is a matter that is constantly being reviewed. It is a decision based on the assessment of our medical professionals or epidemiologists, and we take advice from them where that is concerned. So that is something that is reviewed every single week, and as soon as that changes, we will be the first online to advise the public that travel has resumed from Trinidad. As it relates to the United States, we at this point have no plans that I'm aware of to have any travel restrictions with the United States. They are one of the most vaccinated countries around the world. I think their vaccination levels are up to almost 70% of persons who have received all their shots of the relevant vaccines. And so we feel that we are able to continue to do business with the United States. The United States still contributes well over 65% of travelers to the destination, and indeed to the Caribbean. And so we want to continue to work with our partners, especially our airline partners, who have continued to service the destination throughout the pandemic since we reopened in June last year.
Okay, from Marlon Madden, what efforts being made to encourage more regional travel, and is Jamaica planning to reduce taxes on regional travel as recommended by CARICOM leaders?
As it relates to taxes, that's a question really that I'm unable to answer directly at this point in time. Clearly, that would be one for our policymakers and the Ministry of Finance for sure. But I will take the question back to that table. I will certainly continue to put it on the platform where I know it can receive consideration. As it relates to increasing regional travel, we have a Caribbean sales team that has continued to work very diligently with travel agents across the region. We have had in the last 24 months, including the pandemic, we've had several fam trips, both virtual and in person, with travel agents from different parts of the region, enabling them to understand the destination, to meet new partners, to engage new partners here in Jamaica, and to find opportunities where they're able to recommend their clients travel to Jamaica. So we continue to do that, and we continue to hope that more Caribbean travelers will travel throughout the region, not just to Jamaica, but across all our Caribbean states.
And Melanie from the sunny island of Montreal, cough, cough. Can you comment on arrivals and airlift from Canada? And are you finding Canadian travelers influenced by the US CDC travel alert?
The Canadian market has only, I'd say only just reopened, and I say just meaning over the last 60 to 75 days. To the extent that we are confident, we already begin to see the forward bookings for the winter out of Canada tremendously ticking up over the last 30 days from right across Canada. All our 4 airline, in fact, or no 5 airline partners, being Air Canada, WestJet, Sunwing, Transat, and Swoop, have all committed to the destination. In fact, only recently, in the last 7 days, Swoop has announced that they will also now engage service from Toronto to Kingston, and their Montego Bay service will also come out of Toronto, which is a major gateway for them. They are the only low-cost carrier out of Canada. And so we see the level of confidence that our airline partners have placed in the destination, and we take that as a shot in the arm that we can continue to invest in our marketing and our promotions in the region, and we look forward to having having the beginning of our rebound from Canada beginning in the winter.
And this question, I think there are two people asking the same question, really. That would be Laura and Esther, both dealing with the requirements for travelers to Jamaica to be fully vaccinated. Are you moving in that direction?
We believe our Jamaica Cares program, which really focuses on protocols in the destination, our resilient corridors, that has produced a very safe environment for travelers. Since January 25th, when we began testing every traveler who returns from the destination, we have had less than 1%. In fact, a 0.4% positivity rate from testing from the destination. We believe this is an important signal that our protocols are working and that we can, in fact, facilitate all types of travelers to the destination, because we believe that our tourism workers have dedicated themselves to delivering a safe experience for all travelers to the destination. And we are going to continue to try to improve our own vaccination rate so that we are doubly protected, not just by our resilient corridors and our protocols, but also protecting our workers by ensuring that they get vaccinated as well. So we're focused in that direction, and we encourage and continue to encourage everyone to get vaccinated.
Adrian Laws is asking about the amber list. Jamaica had been placed on the amber list for the UK, and he's asking whether you heard from the UK whether the list will be dropped altogether, and because there's been some discussion about getting rid of the traffic light system altogether, but have red list countries. So what have you heard from the UK regarding that, and that will make travel to Jamaica easier?
I think we are all across the travel and tourism space waiting for Parliament sitting tomorrow. I believe the Prime Minister Prime Minister has said that he will speak on those matters in Parliament. I think it would be foolhardy of us to preempt what he may or may not say. Clearly, us in the Caribbean would love to hear that the traffic light system is removed, but again, don't want to be preemptive. We wait to hear what announcements are made tomorrow, and we go from there.
Okay, Ursula Barzi in the UK wants information on this 1 million visitor split. How many came in 2020 and how many in 2021? Do you have that?
Up to the point when the numbers were announced, at the end of 2020, our numbers were 300, I believe, and 60. That's between June and December. So the difference of, what's that, 640 would have traveled to Jamaica in 2021. In fact, since then, we are now for 2021 alone, January to the end of August, we're at 829,000 arrivals, and those numbers are continuing to grow. So we're slightly ahead of our projections that we would have had for 2021, and we anticipate that that growth will continue through to the end of the year. And all things being equal, we anticipate having a successful winter tourist season, which will start 2022 off well as well.
Let's say, if you can be brief on this one, from Marlon Martin again, wants to know if there are any lessons Jamaica can share with struggling tourism destinations in the Caribbean at this time.
The gold standard for us has been our resilient corridor. It has provided us the opportunity to create a quote unquote bubble experience for visitors to the country, where they are able to travel in a licensed transportation between their hotel and attractions, between hotel and restaurants, between hotel and any other activities that they want to partake in within the resilient corridor. The other gold standard part of our protocol is our protocols that we spent a tremendous amount of time and invested a tremendous amount of resources, both financial and human, in creating during the pandemic, during the height of the pandemic. And those have also served us well. But I think it served us well because we took the time and the effort to train our tourism workers explicitly on the application of these protocols. And that has really, over time, they have become so comfortable with applying them. The investment that our partners have made in PPEs and hand sanitization machines, the level of deep cleaning that happens in our space is phenomenal. And if you just talk to any of our visitors who have been here in the last year plus, they'll tell you the experience in Jamaica has been first class, and we're extremely proud of that. And we encourage all of our tourism neighbors to apply similar principles, and most importantly, to continue to vaccinate your people against COVID-19. It is the only real solution to returning lives and livelihoods to some level of normalcy.
There would have been a number of you who joined after the initial introduction. So in case you're wondering what's happening, St. Kitts, Raquel Brown, who was due to give the update for St. Kitts, had been called to an emergency meeting and has been rescheduled to tomorrow at 12:40. Donovan White of Jamaica agreed to begin the show, so he's going a little bit longer than you'd anticipated. But he's right now actually into his time slot. Mailing Chun of St. Martin is due next, so we might begin with her a little bit earlier, and then everything could fall in place after that. Also, those of you with questions, please put them in the Q&A segment so we can deal with them. Now, we might not be able to deal with all of them live, but Donovan, I would ask whether once we're through with you, if there are any additional questions that haven't been answered, that you just stay on a while and go to the Q&A segment and just respond to them. So the journalists and people asking questions can all have answers to those questions. Glendora Lashley was asking, what is in place to address tourist health concerns, given that Jamaica's health system really is now dealing with a pretty large outbreak of local cases there?
The other investment that our partners have taken seriously is the bolstering of their healthcare services, or nurses' care and doctors' care services in their hotels and resorts. They have also made the provision within their room stock for holding areas, quarantine rooms, isolation rooms. These have served the industry well, where there have been instances of positive COVID-19 tests. And we have unfortunately had one guest who passed away a few weeks back from complications from COVID-19. And we've had cases where guests have been airlifted home from the destination through the engagement of the Ministry of Tourism, the embassies from the countries that they are from, to ensure that service is procured and is made available. We are presently in the process of selection of insurance carriers for potentially a game-changing travel insurance that will facilitate logistics, movement, and support care for persons who contract COVID-19 in the destination whilst on vacation. The details of that obviously is to come, and Minister Bartlett will have more to say on that particular issue as it becomes one of more policy and from a destination perspective. But to your question, and I only mentioned it because of the question, because I want us to understand the fact that Jamaica has been, has been thought leaders on looking at all the macro issues that affect our tourism product or potentially could affect our tourism product, and have sought to ensure that we look at all areas of solution to ensure that we can not only recover, but we can recover safely, and we can put our tourism product on even a faster growth path than we were on before this pandemic hit.
And from Gay again, is the mu variant of concern in Jamaica?
I would say, Gay, there has been a report from our Ministry of Health and Wellness that there has been, I believe, at least one identification case that there is still, I believe, under investigation. There hasn't been any other such report since. I haven't read, seen, or been told of any wide-scale infestation or infections of the Mu variant in Jamaica. We are dealing with the Delta variant as it is, and trying to be as surgical as we possibly can be, but most importantly, focused on getting our people vaccinated, so that at least there is a standard layer of protection in place for the majority of Jamaicans in Jamaica.
And Brian Major wants an update on your discussions with cruise lines. How quickly can Jamaica return to 2019 cruise capacity levels?
That's a good one, Brian. How are you? I hope you're well.
Typical of Brian.
As you know, we have re-engaged with Carnival Cruise Lines. They are now sailing weekly. In fact, there was one in port yesterday to Ocho Rios. They are using these initial sailings as testing ground to work out the kinks in our protocols, their protocols, our protocols, working together on a daily basis to ensure that each sailing is the protocols and the application thereof is continually being improved. We anticipate that as the weeks float by, that more portings will be established at our other cruise ports that Carnival sails into, Montego Bay as well. And our discussions with Royal Caribbean continues. Those discussions are at a very high level and being successfully staged. I believe there are a couple of meetings coming up in the next week or two. We hope to see the cruise lines be back to full sailing capacity. Maybe this time next year. We're going to continue to work closely with them to ensure that all the expectations are met on both sides, and that the partnerships that we've had over the years remain strong and fruitful.
Okay. Are you going to be doing booster vaccines as well, or waiting for more clarification from Esther Levier?
Well, our focus right now is to raise the level of our vaccination of the Jamaican people. I think once we get to a level where we believe that we're heading into herd immunity territory, I think then we can begin to look at booster shots, because you won't get to booster shots until you have persons who are fully vaccinated. So our first hurdle, which we are navigating and working very hard at ensuring that we can achieve, full vaccination of the majority of our population, is well underway, and we're going to be focused on that as right now, and you'll hear more from us on enabling booster shots as the science about that and as the the need for that becomes more imminent for us.
I do hope that Mei-Ling Chang is all set and ready to go, because we have two other quick questions I'd like you to handle quickly, and then we move. Yes, Mei-Ling is all set and ready to go. So you have to handle this quickly, Donovan. Do all tourism workers have to be vaccinated to keep their jobs? And at the same time, from Alison Ferguson, is there still a curfew on?
There. Second one first. There is. We are in the last day of no movement days that were instituted by the government. We've had no movement days for Sundays, Mondays, and Tuesdays for the last 3 weekends. Today is the last of that. We await word from the Prime Minister this week as to what will be the new measures, if any, going forward. The second question, sorry, the first question, remind me what was the first question?
Was the whether tourism workers have to be vaccinated? Yeah.
Yeah, there is no mandate. There is no mandate at this point in time for any Jamaican to be vaccinated to keep their jobs at this time. Whether or not that will change, I can't speak to, or I do not know. What I do know is that we are absolutely being very aggressive in making vaccines available for all Jamaicans, and we're making it as easy and as simple as possible for persons to have access. And we hope that this will continue to encourage persons to take the vaccine, because, as I said before, it is our only solution to return lives and livelihood to normalcy.
Well, thank you so much, Donovan White of Jamaica. I'm sure the media there would probably be applauding if you could see them. So thanks for that. And thanks for agreeing to step in a little bit earlier than you were scheduled. Consequently, you were able to go a little bit longer. But Mei-Ling Chan of Dutch St. Martin is standing by. There are two other questions, Donovan, that are up there that you may just want to go on and reply to. So okay, the responses they can have some responses. Thank you so much, Gay, and everybody else. Mei-Ling, we're ready for you now. And so you just turn on your camera and your microphone's on. Yes, she is. Thank you very much, Mei-Ling Chan of Dutch St. Martin. It's over to you now, Mei-Ling.
Thank you.
I think you don't have a PowerPoint, do you? No, you're just speaking from notes.
Yes, I'm doing talking points today.
Okay.
I think it's better because otherwise we're concentrating too much on slideshows always. And I think there is a couple of important talking points we can address and then take questions after. But great turnout. I think, thank you, CTO, for hosting another press media event. And welcome media from all over. I see from the UK, United States, the region. Thank you for this time. I'm gonna start right off the bat with some statistics and how St. Martin has been doing quite well, even though of the pandemic, of course, the whole world is suffering of that, as Donovan said. But we've seen gradually an upward trend, a positive trend, especially for our summers, where St. Martin normally was very heavy seasonal. It kind of turned around for us to look forward to having, the summer looking pretty good. So we've done some comparisons with 2019, which was actually one of our very good years. But for the month of June, we had 25,443 arrivals compared to June of 2019. This was a slight decrease of 10%. And the reason why I'm mentioning it is because for July, that increase actually got smaller to 3%. And what happens, that shows that positive upward trend where basically July was 3% above what normally is in 2019. We had in July 30,000, close to 31,000 arrivals. And then for August, there was a slight decrease again, but still the gap was only 3%. Most of the passengers or visitors come from the United States, which continues to lead in the recovery. United States is still our larger market. And that's the one that returned back when we reopened also August 1st very quickly, August 1st of 2020. So based on the breakdown, we're looking for the summer months, a total of over 80,000 arrivals at our airport. 72% of these arrivals were from the United States, 13% from France, 13% from the rest of Europe, 1% from the Caribbean, and 2% from other regions, so such as South America, Canada, Asia, etc. South America, we are still close to South America. We're right now working on reopening that, and as well as with the news of Canada, which is great. We are in talks, and we know that Sunwing announced, and they're going to start flying in September, if I'm not mistaken. And then Air Canada will start for us in December 18 officially. As far as our occupancy, it goes hand in hand with the arrivals upward increase. So we had between 50 to 58% because we have hotel and timeshare. As you know, timeshare is also very heavily here as far as the timeshare market. So we had about in July, 58% of occupancy, average occupancy at our properties. We have a total of 80% of our inventory is open, which represents 3,213 room units. We also are very popular with villas, and the last index we did was over 400 villa unit indexes on the Dutch side. The August occupancy was an average of 50%, all of this showing an upward trend with a slight dip for August. As some of you know, home porting was one of the things. We are one of those destinations that started with cruising again. So we started off with home porting in June. And in June, between June, July, and August, we had now people leaving from St. Martin to go on a cruise, 5,621 passengers. But for those 3 months that we had cruise passengers already, because we also have calls, we had over 13,471 passengers. We are in talks with the several cruise lines. As you know, St. Martin is one of those destinations that's very popular. Some ongoing marketing activities. Oh, I want to touch base on as far as the island, the destination, the vaccination program on island, it continues. It has actually increased in that, not only from a private sector wise, but also from the government side. Ministry of Public Health is heavily promoting the vaccine program, and we continue to do so. So we are right now close to, we are 38% vaccinated. That represent over 23,000 citizens. Actually this percentage change, of course, because since we opened it up also to the youth that is able to get vaccinated, you have a larger percentage of population, of course, that has to now be vaccinated. But we are promoting this heavily nationwide, so island-wide, in order for us to get our citizens vaccinated. As far as some of the marketing activities, we launched last month our St. Martin Villa Vibes. Because of St. Martin's, let's say, composition of hotel or accommodations type, one of the things that has become very popular because, of course, of the pandemic, people want to travel in small groups. We have also created a campaign called St. Martin Villa Vibes, which basically promotes more of the luxury and upscale for those that want to be more private and have more of luxury accommodations and not be necessarily in larger hotels. This has become very popular and was very successful and still is. So that has contributed heavily also towards our summer months being so successful. And this is still ongoing. It's growing. It goes through the villa rental companies, and we have some individual villas that are participating as well now. Our travel agent month, we launched that September, our travel agent month, where we have specials with over 30 of our stakeholders, from accommodations to restaurants, etc., in order travel agents to come down and experience the island. And of course, we always promote the surrounding islands as well. We're going to continue with this into October, November. We also have our travel agent program, which is our specialist program that we picked up again, updated and revamping. And that has been ongoing as well. And we're doing a national awareness campaign in Europe, especially in the Netherlands, the Netherlands, for our basically destination awareness. Even though it's been in the news already, but some of the new flights that started, as you might know, is for those who know, but for those who don't, Frontier Airlines started flying into St. Martin as well from Orlando and Miami. That happened in July. That's been going well. American Airlines in July started with their Dallas flight, and that kicked off very well immediately with very high load factors. And that connection services for us also the West Coast, and we've seen an increase for us in the West Coast, especially California visitors. We have what I mentioned before, Air Canada, December 18, twice a week, Sunwing, and we're still awaiting talks with the rest of the Canadian airlines as Canada reopened. Talks started again because Canada is for St. Martin or the number 2 market actually after the United States. But right now, that is something we have to, of course, bring back those numbers. But we have Canadians coming. The percentage that represent are those that are still coming through the United States. As far as I spoke about the national campaign, we have the airlines. I think that's about it as far as protocols are being followed very strictly. We had our slight increases here as well with the Delta variant, and but our travel requirements continue to be that you still have to, even though you're vaccinated, you do have to come in with a either a PCR test. And for the United States, it's either a PCR test 72 hours or an antigen test for 48 hours before arrival. Also, we have the mandatory insurance. I know that some of you might know, but there was always a mandatory insurance when we opened up since August 1st. That mandatory insurance has become now actually from $30, it went down to $15. And that covers you for in case you do get infected, that you are taken care of on the island. And we're happy we have pushed with that. There is always some resistance in the beginning, but I think people that, the few that had to use it were very happy at the end that they are, mandatory, but are covered. So it's a slight fee that you have to pay, but it's worth it. As far as excursions and vacationing on the island, you can rent your car, you can drive around. All the hotels and restaurants have protocols, mask wearing, sanitation, all of that continues, and we enforce it, of course. So it's still a safe place and to be vacationing. And there's a lot of outdoor excursions. So we see a very, an increase in people doing activities outdoors, from hiking to walks to boat rides, private charters, being on the beach, but a lot of small groups, secluded, activities. And that's basically in a nutshell. And I would like to open it up for questions.
And we do have some, and I will begin with the one from Gay, because you spoke towards the end of the mandatory insurance. And Gay was asking, how long will this be required?
Well, we don't know how long, we don't know actually. We have it for now until this pandemic exists, because it covers you basically for when you're infected. And we don't know how long this pandemic is going to go on. And as with all these variants coming on, and changing every time, it's something that we have to, continue with. in order for us to make sure that our visitors are secure and protected.
We've got Curacao at the top of the hour. Paul is already with us. And to a certain degree, you touched on the question from Jim Byers in Canada, I'm sorry. Jim would love to be in Jamaica, wouldn't he? Can you please update us on the Canadian airlift and the outlook for the Canadian market? So I think you touched on that a little bit, didn't you?
Yes, and I did. Basically, we announced, we know that Sunwing is going to be starting soon. I believe this month, and don't hold me to it, I have to double check that. But the one that was announced was December 18, was Air Canada will be starting. Those are the two. We're still in talks with the others. And that's something ongoing, of course, because Canada is our #2 market, which is a very important market for us. So we've been keeping communications with our Canadian carriers and operators.
And Sunwing, while we're at it, that's Melanie in sunny Montreal, asking whether the takeoff date confirmed for the 4th of November from Montreal is still on. And the previous question was, what are the newest attractions you've got on the islands? Is it Tupper's new location? She obviously is staying in touch with what's happening in St. Martin.
Yes. Hi, Melanie. How are you? It's so I would have to verify, but as far as we know, the plans are for Sunwing in November for Montreal. I have to double check that. Don't hold me to it. As far as new excursions, every day new excursions pop up, but new attractions, yes, Stoppers did move into the old carousel building, old new carousel building, which is that is the latest. But one of the, well, you know about the Parrot Phil already, that has been there now for a while, but new attractions right now, I think everything else has been, we have the Mural. One second, the Mural Walk in Phillipsburg is one of our newest attraction, which is a very nice artistic cultural walk through our Phillipsburg downtown, where a variety of artists have done murals and there is, at times it can be done with a trolley, at times it's walk, or they organize it also as a sip and walking tour. And you get to experience all the different murals in the different alleys that we have in town. That is one that has been very popular and has been increasing. But what we will do is actually soon to come, which actually I think by next week, we'll be having an update on different, attractions and things to do. So be on the lookout for that.
And I've got a couple quick questions before we switch over to Paul Penacook. By the way, Gay was asking, and your video is coming and going, Mailing. Gay is asking whether the $15 insurance is for all adults, and by implication again, whether children have to be vaccinated. I'm not sorry, insured. Not vaccinated, insured.
There is, yes, there is a fee for children as well. That's normally $10, and it's $15 for adults.
Okay. From Melanie again, will the entry requirements be the same for Canadians as they are for those arriving on flights from the US?
Correct. US and Canada have the same travel requirements. Where that's actually the only two countries that can have the 72-hour PCR test. Actually, only two countries that can have the 48-hour antigen test, because everybody else has to come in with the 72-hour PCR test, but Canada and the US can come in also with the antigen test of 48 hours.
Okay. From Alex Holt, in the event, he has missed, okay, can you speak to the vaccination levels of locals and how this affects incoming travel? And also the French side and the Dutch side have different policies. Can you advise whether these are being handled in tandem?
Yes. So even though the French side and Dutch side have different policies, the two governments are always on a continuous basis in talk with each other, both ministries of health. because we have no border and our island is promoted as one. And later on, Aida or the VP Damasur will speak more about that. We basically, the protocols are pretty similar in the sense of, your sanitation, wearing masks and so on. The French side does have a curfew at the moment, but it has not taken away from people still going back and forward between the two sides. But can you repeat again the other part of the question? Because as I'm talking, I forgot what I was going to answer.
Okay,
Can
let
you
me
repeat
find the other part of the question here.
right?
What the percentage of locals who've been vaccinated? Yeah.
Yes, we have over 23,000 citizens now on the Dutch side vaccinated, which represents 38%. This, of course, changed. I think I mentioned that it changed because we now are open also to vaccinating the younger ones. So a lot of schools reopened and we have made it available for the teenagers, the younger kids to be vaccinated. So that changes your percentage again because your population becomes larger now who's eligible for vaccine. And the ongoing national campaign really pushes for people to get vaccinated, especially because we are, a tourism-based economy. So the private sector, the stakeholders continue to push that as well, and continue with the protocols in order for us to be able to keep it balanced and protect everybody. And with the protocols, we protect, from visitors to locals to citizens and so on, and keep it in balance.
Well, thank you so very much, Mei-Ling Chan of this Dutch St. Martin. Someone had a question for Jamaica about assistance for hotels. We asked them to stay on to deal with some of them. They hadn't dealt with this one, so I've emailed it over to Donovan and asked whether he could get back to us, and if he does, I will share that with you. So here we are, Paul Penacook, the Director for Curacao. Paul, just turn on your microphone and welcome. It's over to you, Paul.
Okay. Well, good morning, everybody. It's still morning, I guess, yeah? Still morning wherever we are. And it's certainly a pleasure to be here with you today, and going to give you a brief update on Curacao, state of play, particularly with COVID and what's happening with our arrivals and what we're looking towards as far as the winter is concerned. I'd like to share my screen, if you don't mind, because I'm going to have a little bit of a PowerPoint. There you go. All right, can everybody see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Okay, as I mentioned, I'm going to give an update on COVID and the state of play with COVID in Curacao, and then get into the other things like arrivals and so on and so forth. This graph in front of you indicates what we have been dealing with since October, and you will see that we had a major peak in March, April, and that was immediately after our elections, which of course everybody was out campaigning and partying and all that. So we ended up with a peak, which, to be honest, we actually went into another lockdown in the sense that during 2020, the April through June period, we were completely locked down to the point where the airport was closed and we were not taking anybody. The lockdown that we had in 21 between March and April was a lockdown on island in the sense that there was a curfew. We restricted movements really, but we did not close the airport. So we did have sort of minimal arrivals during that time. As you can see at the end of the graph, we're averaging at the moment about 35 positive cases a week. New cases on the 12th were 17. And the thing has really stabilized. Yes, the Delta variant is here, like it is just about everywhere else, but it has really stabilized. We have, I think, about 30 people in the hospital. And unfortunately, we continue to have 1 and 2 deaths, but the situation is much more stable than it was sort of a year ago. And we're at a point where it's very safe, frankly, to come to Curacao. And this is why. We have gotten to a pretty high place in terms of our vaccination, where 70% of people over 16 are fully vaccinated, and some 77% of adults 16 and over have had their first shot, and we continue with the vaccination. So as you can see, we are in the territory of herd immunity, and I suspect that our success in vaccinations has assisted the process where we are having as little transmission as we are these days. The other reason why we are is because of our entry requirements, because the policy in Curacao is such that yes, we're getting the vaccination done. We're also practicing everything locally to ensure that there's not another outbreak, if you will. With regard to the entry requirements, prior to flight, everyone has to fill out the digital immigration card and also fill out what we call the passenger locator card, PLC. They also have to upload a negative PCR test result, which must be taken maximum of 48 hours before flight time. And depending on where you're coming from, it can be an antigen or PCR. What determines that? You'll see we also have in Curacao a list of countries where some people are low risk, high risk, very high risk. And if you're coming from a very high risk country, then you have to take a PCR before you come in. And everyone who comes in has to take an antigen test 72 hours after arrival. That's a requirement for everybody. The only difference with a lower risk country is that you can do an antigen before coming in, as well as the 72 hours after your arrival, another antigen test in Curacao. So you can tell, therefore, from that sort of entry requirement policy that we are controlling the import of the virus, and we're making sure that everyone locally, as well as the visitors, are protected by requiring the 3rd day antigen tests after you have arrived in Curacao. That goes, by the way, for residents and visitors alike. The determination for a resident who is coming back into Curacao, a fully vaccinated resident, the determination of what tests they do is what country they're coming from and what is the risk profile of that particular country. At the moment, by the way, we do not differentiate vaccinated versus unvaccinated people. We are well advanced with getting into the European vaccination digital COVID certificate, because, you know, being part of the kingdom, we can actually participate in that if we do some necessary things. And Europe is in fact our largest market. So we're doing the necessary things to become a part of that as soon as possible. However, it is going to be a bit more challenging with North and South America because there is no consistent vaccination COVID certificate program that we know of yet. Every state in the US and every province in Canada has a different policy regarding vaccinated people. And the same thing with South America. So that's going to take some more time. But at the moment, vaccinated or not, the entry requirements are the same for Curacao. And that seems to be working quite fine, actually, because as you will see when we get into the arrivals, as in the most current arrivals, we seem to be doing quite well, and those are our policies at the moment. The graph you're looking at is the stay over arrivals 2019, 2020, and 2021. The turquoise line at the top is, of course, 2019, when we had some 463,000 stayover arrivals for the year. 2020, we began very strongly. As a matter of fact, we were ahead of 2019. The first 2 months, we were like 5 or 6% up on 2019. But then came March 18th, and it fell off a cliff. Because of course, with COVID, everything was closed. I think it was the 18th of March. And so you saw our arrivals fell off a cliff, and we literally had no arrivals April, May. In the middle of June, we opened to the Bess Islands, the Dutch Kingdom Islands and so on. And then in July, on the 1st of July in 2020, we opened to limited arrivals from primarily Europe. It wasn't until October that we opened 4 states in the US. And then on the 1st of January 2020, we opened to the entire US. Of course, Canada was always open, but we didn't have any flights, except we had a couple of flights in December of 2020. Then, of course, comes 2021, where we did start off fairly low, as you can see. And this is because in December of 2020, unfortunately, COVID-19 was raging in the number of countries in Europe, including the Netherlands, our largest market. And so the Netherlands actually restricted travel of their citizens. And we were put on a code orange, which meant that citizens from the Netherlands could only travel to Curacao for essential purposes. No tourism or leisure travel was allowed. The same thing happened with Germany. And so we literally were having very few arrivals from Europe during this sort of January, February, March period. And then I mentioned earlier on that March, April, we had our own problems locally with the virus. And once we got on top of that, and we got to May, and the middle of May is when the Netherlands put us back on code yellow, which is, of course, you can travel to Curacao for all purposes. And at the end of May, Germany also put us back on the travel list. And the US, of course, we were open to the US at that time. So we started seeing some pickup in arrivals in May. And of course, we had a very good June, July, and August.
Yeah, Paul, you just have 10 minutes left.
Okay, no problem.
You know, yeah.
This is the details of the arrivals for the year. You saw that in April, we had almost nothing. In May, we started coming back, and then June, July, and August. The August arrivals, just to give you some quick details, we had 30,852 arrivals for the month of August, which was 79% of what we did in 2019. And it was only that because 2019, we actually had the North Sea Jazz Festival, which made August 2019 a very strong month. 22,770 of these arrivals were from Europe, 4,421 were from North America. From these arrivals that we had in August, 60% of the Europeans stayed in resort hotels, 70% of the North Americans stayed in resort hotels. Quickly, our hotel developments. And I want to make a statement here regarding the fact that Curacao is easily the most successful destination in the region from Europe in terms of our European traffic. Europe normally is about 53% of our stayover arrivals. At the moment, Europe is some 64, 65% of our arrivals. That means our North American arrivals is far less than we would like them to be. And we are about to do something about that. The reality is the United States of America has 330 million people, the largest economy in the world, and it only sits less than 3 hours from Curacao. We therefore need to do better from North America, and this is how we're going to go about it. We currently have developments in our hotel sector that are very North American friendly. In winter 2019-20, the Curacao Marriott Beach Resort reopened, 334 rooms. We also had Dreams Curacao Resort and Spa open. That's the former Hilton, which converted to Dreams and AM Resort. and we had a complete renovation of the Renaissance Curacao Resort and Casino. Then in 2021, Penacook Aqua Resort did a soft branding with trademark My Window. So they become more North American friendly, and that's also doing quite well. And then we opened in 2021, the Mangrove Beach Curacao Resort. That resort has done a soft branding now with Hilton, and on September 1st, it became Curio by Hilton at Corendon Resort. We also had the Brion City Hotel convert to a Best Western, which will be happening this quarter, the fourth quarter, which also lends itself to the North American market. And then in 2022, Sandals Royal Curacao will open in April. That is the former Santa Barbara Beach Resort. And then the Marriott Courtyard, which is currently being built, will also open in 2022. Last but not least, our airline system, we're beautifully set for the winter. We have 14 flights a week out of Amsterdam on KLM, 11 flights a week on TUI out of Amsterdam also. And North America, I will not go into detail, but we have American Airlines, JetBlue, and United from the United States, Air Canada and WestJet from Canada and South America, Avianca from Bogota, Copa from Panama, Wingo from Bogota, Easy Air from Barranquilla, and a number of airlines flying the Caribbean. So we're looking forward to a positive winter season in Curacao. Questions?
Thank you. And since you talked about the airlines and the flights, we'll go to the question from Jim Byers. I guess you'll have to tell us a little more details, whether there's airlines from Canada are currently flying, and if they're not, when they're scheduled to begin.
Air Canada begins on October the 1st. WestJet comes in on October 31st with their once-weekly flight. And in December, Air Canada, or the October 1st comes out of Toronto. And in December, mid-December, the second flight from Toronto comes in on Air Canada. And also mid-December, 2 flights from Montreal, twice a week from Montreal, comes in on Air Canada.
And Arlene Arthur, also in Canada, wanted to know whether Canada is high risk or low risk.
Canada is high risk at the moment, but you can actually rest assured that the United States is very high risk. So Canada is not bad at high risk.
Okay, and
it just means actually that what I said before, the arrival requirements, PCR 48 hours before arrival, and upon arrival, 3 days after arrival, an antigen test locally. That's it.
And good segue into the question from Gay Myers, because she wanted some clarification. PCR test was 72 hours before departure, wasn't it? As of last week, she said.
It was. We changed it. As a matter of fact, it changed on the 6th of September. We've found it's much easier to get now in most destinations. And more importantly, the health people have indicated that to really stay on top of it, they want to take the PCR test as close to departure as possible. But 24 hours is unrealistic because it takes more time to get the results. So that's why they've taken that down to 48, number one. And number two, to give reassurance to everybody, both those who are coming in as well as the locals, everyone has to do the 3rd day antigen after being on the island.
And there's someone anonymous who wants to know whether you have any US-based marketing in the works to further tap into the American travelers.
No, absolutely. We are having continuous things happening, certainly in the trade market, where we're emailing travel agents a lot in terms of videos as well as other things, special offers. In addition to which, we are currently reviewing a 4th quarter plan for multiple channels of advertising in the US, especially bearing in mind that we have, for example, the United Airlines flight, which comes back on November the 6th. We're going to be doing something special in the New Jersey area just to stimulate that flight and so on. But yes, we do have a program of advertising and promotion in our special markets And we have ongoing stuff, mostly digital, and we have more stuff that's coming up for the fourth quarter.
Marlon, what is the plan for Canada in terms of marketing?
Similarly, we work very closely with the tour operators in Canada, and we also have some consumer stuff coming up, and we also work closely with the travel agents in Canada. And we will similarly, this fourth quarter plan that I'm talking about is actually being developed for North America, not just the US.
We've got just a couple of minutes left. I don't see any additional questions up here, Paul. So if there's anything you might want to elaborate on, you've got a minute or two to do that, unless a question comes up. St. Eustatius is next. I know they've got some exciting news that Charles Linder wants to share. Charles, I'm not quite sure if you're on. I know your microphone is muted and your camera is off. So if you're on, please turn it on so we can just flow smoothly over to you in a couple of minutes. Yes, he's on and everything is all set. Okay, before you go on, Ursula in the UK says, impressive vaccination statistics. Do you have any suggestions, Paul, for other Caribbean countries who are struggling to get local citizens to take the vaccine?
I would say that the private sector, as in the workers in the tourism industry, and the health department, and the tourist board, and all that, would all need to work together very much on it to ensure that they get it done. And what we ended up doing in Curacao, in addition to just running PSAs on the radio and television and so on for the population generally, but specifically in the industry, we did things like the health people went into the hotels and did briefings of them to make sure the workers understand why it is important to take the vaccinations. And having done that, they convinced a lot of hesitant people to take the vaccination, and they had the necessary things there. So upon doing a briefing, they then administered the vaccinations there and then. And the last thing that I will mention is that having passed 50% of the population, the health department then took the vaccination into the more rural areas and took it to the citizens to ensure that we get people vaccinated. And it has worked very well, as you can see from the statistics.
Okay, thank you so very much, Paul Penacook. And again, I said it earlier, when Donovan White spoke, I'm sure people like Gay and Ursula and everyone else is applauding you. I can tell, I can feel it. I know that quite well. So thanks so much for sharing that. And Paul, it could be helpful if you just PDF the presentation that you had, send it to me, and I can share it with those who are on, just in case they'd like to have those as well. Yeah?
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you, Johnson. It was my pleasure doing this.
Thank you so much. And now we will welcome Charles Lindo. Charles is the Director of Tourism for St. Eustatius, that we all very affectionately refer to as Statia. Charles, it's now your turn.
Good morning, and good morning, Johnson, and the rest of the media world. And thank you so much for having us, Johnson. Thank you so much for this wonderful invitation and for sharing information about my wonderful, small, but very in the mix islands in the Statius, as Johnson said, better known as Statia. Definitely, we do have some information to share, and the elephant in the room, of course, is the COVID. And pretty much everybody knows what the COVID is doing and the different variant that is up and about. However, we do have some information that we can share about the COVID, but before we do that, then I would like to talk about our development that's been happening on the island as of recently. Right now we have just seen where the island have taken a turn in focusing on manicuring the product of tourism on the island, while everyone else, of course, has been concentrating so much on the COVID situation. And I think it was perfect time for us to do this. We, at this end, government decided, you know what, let's take this opportunity, this pause, to work on improving the infrastructure. We have just seen a new airport building that just been opened 2 weeks ago. The tower has been operational now, which is a brand new tower, has been operational now for the past 3 months. And again, these are all development that took place during the time of this, and I would call it the pause, the tourism pause, because that's pretty much what happened. Everything has gone on standstill since the COVID-19, the pandemic have came up. However, again, that's what we have done. Our roads improvement. One of the major complaints we had was the mere fact that we had a lot of unconditional roads that had plenty of potholes, if you want to call it that, and difficult to maneuver. However, anyone who comes to the island right now would be highly impressed and surprised of the work that have been done to make the island much more attractive and to create more attraction to the island in this area. So again, we look forward to welcoming persons and in experiencing what we have been doing over the past year and a half, more or less. We also have seen the opening, and the soft opening will take place this Friday of let's call it the first five-star luxury resort on the island. For those of you who haven't seen it, it's the Golden Rock Resort, the Golden Rock Dive and Nature Resort to be exact, have just opened their doors on the island, and they have also opened a wonderful five-star restaurant, which is Breeze's Restaurant as well on the island. So these are all developments that has been taking place during the time of this, as you would call it, lockdown. As I said, there are also some measures that we have taken in regards to the COVID-19 situation. For example, Stacia, up until August 6th, 7th, since January 28th of 2021, Stacia has been COVID-free. And this did not just happen overnight. It happened because we maintain strict entry policy and of course limited because of the mere fact we had our limited measures. And as I said, it's a small island, 3,000 plus people. So of course you have to make sure that you are well protected and well secured. However, during the course of August 31st, sorry, there are phases and it's called the roadmap to opening St. Eustatius. And this is done in phases. Right now we are on phase 3. And what phase 3 is and as I said, that this started on the 31st of August. Everyone can visit St. Eustatius, including tourists, of course. However, there are a few conditions. And one of the conditions, or two of the conditions, are visitors must be fully vaccinated with the 2 doses, of course. 50% of our population, of course, Stacia population, must be vaccinated, which we are at that threshold right now. However, non-vaccinated persons can enter Stacia. However, a quarantine period of 10 days is mandatory. And again, this is only this has been done because again we know our system, we know what we have on the island, and in order to make sure that we maintain the protection and give everybody the just protection that is needed, including the tourists, including the person that visits the island, these measures definitely has to be put in place, including some strict maritime protocol is also there. However, we do have the strong healthcare. I heard my predecessor, the one that was in front of us from Curacao, talked about the measures that they took in that area, and also St. Martin. And with that in mind, we are also affiliated with the Dutch, and this is where we get our rules and regulations, of course, when it comes to the healthcare and the measures that must be taken. So this is not done on island per se on our own, but we the health care facility, the healthcare people, they liaison with those in the Netherlands, and pretty much there's where the protocol is put together in collaboration with the healthcare organization here. And again, the entry policies, you have, of course, the risk factors, which you have very low, high, and very high risk countries. I would go to the low countries, for example, there'll have to be a pre-arrival COVID-19 PCR test, for example, from low countries. But again, that would be for the vaccinated individuals. Non-vaccinated would have to have a pre-arrival COVID-19 PCR test and a 10 days of quarantine with an exit test, of course. The high risk countries, you have pre-arrival COVID-19 PCR test, which is mandatory, 5 days of monitoring, which with exit tests. And some of the persons who came to the island from high risk have experienced this. And I would say that once they were asked, how was this affecting their mobility, it pretty much was a good idea to have this particular setup, whereby persons who came from a high risk country were still able to move around within the 5-day monitoring process, as long as they were able to present, one, that they were fully vaccinated, and two, that they did the PCR test as well. So coming in from persons who are non-vaccinated from a high risk, pre-arrival COVID-19 PCR test and 10 days of quarantine with an exit test is mandatory. And then, of course, you have the very high risk, which pre-arrival COVID-19 PCR test is mandatory for vaccinated person. 5 days quarantine with exit test is still there, but then you also have the same thing, which will qualify for the high risk for the non-vaccinated individuals as well. There's a list that goes out on a weekly basis to the different organizations, including the tourist office, from government and from the healthcare center, indicating which country is on that high risk list. And in doing so, it gives everybody an idea. For example, if I get a call, one of my colleagues get a call, then we can share that information in letting persons know if they are qualified on that high risk or not. And this is only to indicate, because we know how the Delta variant is right now, is pretty much dominant, and we need to make sure that, again, we maintain those our strong healthcare system in place. And the island has also in sync with the hospital itself, there's also a hospitainer available for treatment of COVID patients. So it pretty much we have taken the necessary steps, but we are not alone. Again, we take these measures in collaboration with the agencies and the Ministry of Health in the Netherlands. Measures in case of an outbreak is there, and again, this is done. The government goes on air every Mondays and Thursdays and give information about any measures or any changes that exist, so people would know what to expect and what not to expect. One more thing I want to say before I turn it over to Johnson is that we have also 12 to 17-year-old is now being vaccinated with the Moderna vaccine. So we have taken that step as well on the island. And so now not just the adult population, but also the teenagers is also being vaccinated on the island. The goal is to reach at least 80%. Right now we are above the 50%, 52% more or less, which is also one of the reasons why we were able, government were able to open the borders back on the end of August for visitors and residents alike. Okay, so I think we have some more information, but I would like to get some questions. I see that there's some time.
There are a number of questions here already.
Please.
Very quickly, I neglected to also recognize Maya Leon Pant, who is Charles's colleague at St. Eustatius Tourism as well. And for those of you who watched the presentation by Paul Penacook of Curacao, I've put a link in the chat to where you can pull down that presentation just in case you need it. There's a question here from Lower Dorrit Phillips in Trinidad. What vaccines are being recognized by Stacia?
The one that we are using right now is the Moderna vaccine. However, there's also the one-shot Pfizer vaccine that is out there as well for persons who are interested. And one of the reasons why the healthcare system came up with that one is, as we all know, and it's nothing new to Stacia, it's also, I guess, across the Caribbean. And if you hear from the persons who spoke earlier, there have been some resistance towards the vaccine. And one of the reasons why this was introduced, because it's being said that, why not just one shot instead of having to do two? So this one also, the Johnson & Johnson has been introduced as well to the population of the island. But those are the two that we have been using on the island. And these, again, is done via the Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Health on the island via the Netherlands.
And I guess where Laura was going with the question is, which ones will Stacia accept for people coming in? I've taken the Pfizer, for example. There is the Sinopharm and a few more. So which ones do you accept?
I'm going to go here on a limb right now, but I've not heard from anyone in the health sector. I've not heard from any one of them indicated to myself. I'm not sure if I've heard anything, but I've not heard that any vaccine is not going to be, anyone that has any type of vaccine is not going to be accepted on the island. The only thing that we said that I received was that as long as you can prove that you have your double shot, that you are fully vaccinated, whether it's fully vaccinated with 2 shots or 1 shot, then you are allowed to enter the island. That's as far as we have information. I'm not sure if my colleague had anything different than that.
No, they haven't said anything different than that. So,
And well, I can certainly testify to the fact that I was able to get in on the Pfizer. So, and that was surprised. Yes. Gay Myers, wants to know whether, well, I think to a certain degree we've dealt with part of the question, but whether the PCR test is required both for vaccinated and unvaccinated, and the answer is yes, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And also from Gay, is the US considered high risk?
Yes, the US is considered high risk. And again, as the numbers changes, again, we receive this on a weekly basis. So at this present moment, yes, it's considered high risk as well.
Christine Legrand, with visits to Stacia being usually short stay, how has the mandatory 10-day quarantine for non-vaccinated travelers impacted your visit? What has been the feedback from travelers about it?
In reality, our visit, the visit to the island is in reality not short stay. The reason being, most of the visitors, our main tourism product is the diving, and most of the persons that enter the island is usually divers. However, there's also agreement with government that whereby there is a sort of dive bubble that exists right now, where divers who are fully vaccinated can enter the island under that particular bubble. And I'm more than happy to share that information with anyone who's interested in receiving what that entails as well. But thus far, we have not had, matter of fact, we have had persons, especially in the dive sector, that have been requesting for the entry and to come to the island, again, based on the fact that, the diving is a little bit more extended than the regular stays.
And from Melanie Refers I've got to say that every time, sunny Montreal, are you encouraging day trippers from St. Martin or Anguilla? Is a day trip doable at this time?
You want to go on that one, or you want me to continue with it?
Well, for day trippers, I don't, as long, the policy is as long as they're fully vaccinated, they will have to adhere to the protocols, which means they will still have to wear a mask. They won't be able to eat indoors, but they can venture out and about. And day trippers normally come just to, explore. So they're not indoors, they're out and about and outdoors. So as long as they can present the test showing that they're negative and they're fully vaccinated and they adhere to the protocol of wearing a mask and not being indoors anywhere, I'm sure they'll be more than welcome.
You mentioned, Charles, about this first ever 5-star resort. That is a big thing for Statia, isn't it? Tell us how that's going to impact your tourism.
Okay, most definitely, and I would say something, and then I would let Pant also jump in as product development manager to get also give her feedback on this as well. But from a tourism standpoint, one of the first things that we look at is the mere fact of exposure. The resort itself has a tendency of getting the name of Statia out there on a much broader scale than we were or at this present moment. Also, the fact that we look at the employment factor of this resort, one of the things that we say about the island, we are very hospitable. Anyone that comes to Statia, Johnson, tend to want to return to Statia or don't leave Statia for that matter. Because of the hospitality that we deliver, it's pretty rare that you find an island right now where you walk down the street, people have never seen you before, but yet they're saying hi, good morning, good afternoon, or waving to you. However, we are not really tourism minded. And I believe this is where this particular resort is going to switch that mindset, whereby if you look at many of the Caribbean islands, tourism is one of their main pillar of income. We have yet to reach there. So we are virgin territory. With such a property coming to us, we believe that this would help us develop that mindset into making us more tourism minded and tourism oriented, and not along with that hospitality that we tend, which is genuine, coming from the heart, as still as I said, virgin territory and a destination that is yet to tap into what tourism has to offer generally.
I've got to jump in before Maya could even think of saying anything, because we've got just about a minute left. And Belize, due next, and hopefully, Deborah, you're all set, and you can turn on your microphone and your video so we can have this smooth transition. But I would like you to answer these 2 questions very, very quickly in 10 seconds or less. Do day trippers also need a PCR test 72 hours before arrival? Yes or no?
We would have to get back to you on that question, Johnson. I do not want to answer something that I haven't answered.
Okay, and the name of the resort that you're talking about, and when will it be open?
The name is Golden Rock Resort, Golden Rock Dive and Nature Resort, and it's open now. However, the soft opening will take place this Friday.
Okay, so thank you. We've quickly run out of time. Deborah from Belize is here and all set and ready to go. Thank you very much, Charles, and thanks for all the questions that are coming in as well. And we've not got to go over now to Deborah in Belize.
Hi, good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be a part of this wonderful discussion. Today, I want to give you a journey into what's happening with Belize, and one of the main focus for us has been sustainability. So sustainability has always been a core mindset for us as a society. It's ingrained in our societal DNA to protect our natural resources. So when COVID first hit, we were already 10 years into our national tourism sustainable tourism master plan. So COVID-19 made us appreciate more of what we already had in place and it showed us the need to prioritize our health and safety more than ever. Historically, Belize has been an environmentally conscious destination. We still have more than 35% of our landmass protected as wildlife sanctuaries, forest reserves, national parks, and then 1/3 of our lush tropical rainforest is still intact. We were the first country to establish the world's only jaguar reserve located in the Coxcomb Basin in the southern Belize. And of course, Belize is home to the barrier reef system, the longest living barrier reef in the world, a UNESCO World Heritage Site. We also promote a vast endowment of ancient Maya archaeology. In fact, our history dates back to Belize being the epicenter of the Maya civilization during the classic period of 250 AD to 900 AD. Hence the reason we have such high concentration of Maya sites anywhere you travel in the country. Basically, you're in close proximity. Now, Belize has approached sustainable tourism from different angles, and I'll show you how we tie this into COVID. We have protected areas which are near and dear to our hearts. In fact, that's how our communities survive, not only from the water we drink, but these areas provide materials for shelter, protection of natural disasters, food, livelihood. And we are always looking at ways where we can transform economic drivers. We have one of the most advantageous environments in the world. Right now, tourism makes up roughly 40% of our GDP. We also have our indigenous people and our partnerships with our local communities, which has led to not only the building of sustainable development platforms, but also to allow tourism to become an integral element in our local economic development in Belize. So in essence, we've been pivoting over the past 20 years to make Belize more sustainable. Now, how were we advancing pre-COVID? Well, we had banned styrofoam and single-use plastics, banned the use of gill nets for fishing and other unsustainable practices. We've been integrating renewable sources. Many of our resorts, for example, use solar power technology for light laundry rooms, conference rooms, etc. And we were in the process of building capacity for digital integration. So when COVID-19 manifested itself in Belize, we had to fast track all these things, especially the use of digital integration. For example, we use an app to open our airport sustainably and responsibly. We have managed our COVID-19 cases effectively. And there was a point where our country went COVID-free for 52 consecutive days. In late December 2020, Belize was recognized by the World Travel and Tourism Council as a safe travels destination. And this stamp allows travelers to identify destinations and entities that have adopted global standardized health and hygiene protocols. Now, Belize has been awarded this honor thanks to the rigorous safety procedures the country has implemented as part of our phased reopening plan and the introduction of our gold standard recognition program. The program is a 9-step process that hotels, tour operators, and other tourism-related businesses must implement in order to service international guests. So since its implementation, it has been the hallmark of our reopening campaign and has been very effective in ensuring that the travel to Belize is safe. Now, a major reason for such success is due to our culture of collaboration. So we've had collaborations among our Ministry of Health and Wellness, the Ministry of Tourism and Diaspora Relations, and of course the Tourism Board, our Belize Hotels Association, local stakeholders, and of course the wider community. Now, since the COVID lockdown, Belize adopted a 5-phase approach reopening responsibly and safely for our international travelers. October 1st was when we we opened the international airport, 2020, of course. Visitors, could have come in. And then on May 31st, we opened our land and sea borders. Now, what can visitors expect when visiting Belize at this time? So since August 9th of this year, all travelers, both vaccinated and unvaccinated, entering Belize from other countries will be required to present a negative COVID test. So all travelers entering Belize from the Philip Goldson International Airport, that's our main airport, that will be required to present a negative COVID test taken within 96 hours of travel, or a negative rapid test taken within 48 hours of their arrival time in Belize. And of course, we have these tests available, rapid tests available also at the international airport. Now, visitors traveling to Belize through the northern or western borders will be administered a rapid test by the Ministry of Health at on site. So right now it's a little stricter with the borders coming into the country. You can't bring up a test. It has to be administered on site. So if you test negative, then you can continue on with your vacation. Of course, if you are tested positive, then you would not be allowed entry into the country. Now, what are some of the measures we put in place to safeguard visitors? Well, the country's primary concern is to assure both travelers and residents that Belize's tourism product is safer than ever before. And so we have a series of new enhanced health and safety protocols that have been put in place to protect visitors, as well as our Belizeans and our communities. And these include the mandatory use of face masks in public places, the enforcement of physical distancing measures in public spaces. And then there's also capacity restrictions at restaurants, which is currently 50%, grocery stores, retail stores, etc. And so the introduction of our Tourism Gold Standard program, which seeks to enhance the tourism's industry's health and safety standards by adopting new behaviors and procedures to ensure both employees and travelers are confident in the cleanliness and safety of our tourism product. Other measures that we have in place, like for example, online check-in and check-out, contactless payment systems, automated ordering or booking systems, enhanced cleaning and sanitization of public spaces and high-touch surfaces. So these are just some of what the hotels and other tourism service providers have been adhering to.
Yeah, Deborah, we have 9 minutes left, yeah?
Yes. So currently, visitors visiting Belize can move around freely. However, it's recommended that they remain in the tourism safe corridor. The safe corridor includes gold standard certified accommodations, tour operators or ground transportations, restaurants, tourism sites, attractions, gift shops, car rentals companies. So these gold standard entities have all been trained and have been have implemented and enhanced health and safety measures. We do have a curfew in effect, which starts from 9 p.m. to 4 a.m. daily. So persons are not permitted to be in public spaces during this time. So that is something that's been very strict. Now, in terms of our latest updates, Belize welcomed the Carnival Vista on July 7th to Belize City. And on August 4th, we welcomed Norwegian Cruise Line. They resumed their first test sail to Belize City. And they're following that, they were also doing calls to Harvest Key. On June 2nd, we had Copa Airlines resume their flights to from Panama, to Belize. We have Southwest Airlines. They will resume flights to Belize from Houston and Denver starting November 7th. We have Alaska Airlines. They've confirmed new nonstop service from the west coast of the US to Belize commencing later this year, November 19th to be exact. And so Belize will become the fourth country that Alaska Airlines flies to from its west coast hubs, joining Canada, Mexico, and Costa Rica. And we also have, so in terms of hotel developments, we've welcomed groundbreaking of one of our newest hotels, which is the Alea Resort, which is a Marriott branded property in Belize on May 5th. It's one of a 4-diamond beachfront resort on Burgers Key. And we have other new resorts slated for opening in 2021, 2022. For example, Margaritaville, and we have a Four Seasons coming soon. In closing, I just want to leave a few key takeaways. Belize has a naturally low population density, so that aligns us naturally with our new social distancing protocols. We've never been a mass tourism destination with overcrowded beaches or local attractions. Farm to table and sustainability forefront of many of our resorts' core practices. So guests could, enjoy wholesome food prepared with Belizean love. And then of course, English is our first language. It's an easy and safe destination to move around. And that concludes my talk for today. Any questions?
Thank you. We've got Barbados next at midday. So we've got a question here from Canada. Alison Ferguson wants to know whether the Canadian market, how it's doing, and what airlines are flying directly from Canada to Belize.
There are no flights right now from Canada, but I do know there are talks about WestJet coming soon. WestJet and Air Canada were two of our pre-COVID flights. In terms of arrivals from the Canadian market, it's about roughly about 7 to 10% of our source market comes from Canada.
And you talked about the no test required before you come, PCR test or anything before you come, so no one has to present a PCR test? So,
no, just to clarify, you do need, you have the option to either bring a PCR or rapid test. The PCR test taken within 96 hours, the rapid test taken within 48 hours of your arrival time in Belize. So, or if you don't bring these tests, then you can take the tests in Belize at the international airport or the land border.
I see we have no more questions for you. Let me just make sure that Minister Lisa Cummins is all set and ready to go in just a couple of minutes. Is there anything else that you'd want to elaborate on a little bit more, Deborah?
Well, I just want to mention that we do have a series of expos. We have a an adventure and sustainability expo rolling out on October 19th to the 20th, and we would very much invite everyone to be part of this expo. You can contact us at traveltrade@belizetourismboard.org for more information. That's traveltrade@belizetourismboard.org.
For the media and interested, I've put in
Yes.
Deborah's full name and also designation in the chat feature, so you can
Okay.
pull it out there. And Deborah from
Yes.
Belize. Let me just make sure that Senator Lisa Cummins, we're about 5 minutes before the hour. But if you're ready, Senator Cummins, you can turn on your microphone and your camera, and we can begin the Barbados presentation. Deborah, one of the key questions that was coming up throughout the course of the morning is about the whole issue of vaccinated and unvaccinated and quarantine periods, and what's the protocol like for these people vaccinated as opposed to the unvaccinated?
What's the protocol like?
Is there a difference for vaccinated and unvaccinated?
Well, if you're entering the country, whether you're vaccinated or not, you are still required to, present either a PCR or a negative test rather, upon entry into the country via the international airport, or administer the test if you're at the airport, or if you're coming through the borders, administer it at the border. Social distancing, wearing of masks, all of those it's the same for vaccinated and unvaccinated.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. And we're still awaiting the Minister Cummins from Barbados. So thank you so much. There we go. Here she is. And all set and ready to go. So thank you so much, Deborah Belize, and we appreciate it. And now we'd like to introduce the Minister Lisa Cummins of Barbados. Minister, you can go ahead, unmute your microphone, and let's get ready. For those of you, again, who are following, if you've got questions, make sure the questions are put in the Q&A window here on Zoom. It's now up to you.
Thank you so much, Johnson, for having us here today. It's a pleasure always to be with the Caribbean colleagues, and I'm looking forward, hopefully, to a robust question and answer session at the end of the presentation. And I want to also express my appreciation to the presenter who went before for giving great information on what's happening in Belize. And so I'm just going to get right into it and share a little bit about where we are here in Barbados, where we have been certainly over the last 18 months. I'm not going to tell you anything that you already know, which is that it has been a difficult time for arrivals here in the region, and here in Barbados, of course, has been no different. When we spent some time looking over our statistics and our numbers, obviously, much like everyone else, it gives a sense of perspective of where countries have been coming from and what has been happening. And so let me start with a little bit of an overview. In Barbados, since January up until September this month, we've had just under 50,000 arrivals for the year. That is considerably less than what we're used to having, and somewhere in the vicinity of around 71.2% of a decrease over the corresponding period for 2020. That is more than half of our numbers, even on a monthly basis. And just to give you a little bit of perspective, this time in 2019, we had just around 60,000 visitors for the month. And we had around 60,000 visitors for the previous month. And here we are accounting for just under 50,000 visitors from the period beginning in January up until September. Now, if we were to look at our main source market specifically for Barbados, we go through Germany, that's a decline of around 92.4%. Canada, a decline of about 91.5%. And Europe and the United Kingdom, we had approximately 90.4% and 74.5% respectively. Here in the Caribbean, where all of our countries have been dealing with either lock closures of borders and surges in cases, we have been seeing obviously the corresponding declines in arrivals. But that is not to say that there are not bright sparks. That is not to say that there's not quite a lot that is positive about where we are as a region. And so we're very happy to see that the flights coming into Barbados, and I want to spend a moment talking about those flights for the benefit of the colleagues, have been flying at somewhere in the vicinity of around over 100% capacity. We, in September 1, were very happy to welcome back American Airlines to daily flights. We previously, up until the end of July, were seeing American Airlines out of the US market, predominantly Newark and Miami, flying into Barbados, yes, with loads of 100%, but they were only flying 5 days a week. Effective the beginning of September, we are seeing American Airlines returning to Barbados 7 days a week and twice on Saturdays. We expect a little later on in the year, by November, we should hit a target where American Airlines will return again to more than 1 flight daily and certainly 3 flights on Saturdays. In the for the UK market, we are also flying full flights and at capacity. And while we have not seen additional aircraft flying in, what we have seen with the UK market is an increase in the number of seats available. And so they're flying larger equipment into Barbados. We have a number of new flights which are going to begin in October. So we are now in the process of putting final preparations in place to welcome KLM out of Amsterdam. We will be welcoming again Lufthansa out of Germany. We have Aer Lingus originating out of Ireland and coming via Manchester. They will be coming back into Barbados and servicing the European market. But for the first time, we will also be connecting through KLM into the French and the Dutch Antilles and onward into Barbados. That opens up that intra-regional movement, and we're hoping to be able to have partnerships with our Caribbean partners. In addition to that, we are preparing as well, and we're working with our aviation teams to complete, for the first time as well, air services agreements with our Middle Eastern partners out of Saudi Arabia and Qatar. And we're very hopeful that by the end of the year, no later than November, we would have concluded those air services agreements, and we will have flights coming back into Barbados. In the interim, we have, however, even outside of that additional airlift, received a request for licensing from at least one airline out of the Middle East. And we're hoping to be able, using a code share arrangement with one of our largest partners, to welcome that airline to Barbados a little later on in the year as well. So across the Caribbean, we of course are happy to welcome Trinidad's borders to having been reopened in July, and with it brought travel on Caribbean Airlines, bringing significant travel across the Caribbean. And of course, we continue to have close partnerships with Inter-Caribbean, and LEA continues to fly and to provide services. Excuse me. Now, one of the main innovations from Barbados that was designed to account for, I guess I would describe it as less being more, where we're not having the volume of arrivals coming that we would have had before, not necessarily because of anything happening here in the Caribbean on its own, but globally, the Canadian border was closed to some destinations for close to a year. And we've only seen regular leisure travel reopening to the Canadian market starting this month. And so we've seen that. We've seen the UK market also closing. And so the notion of short-term visits from our main source markets led Barbados in July of last year to develop the Welcome Stamp. And the Welcome Stamp has netted over approximately just around 5,000 global citizens. And even in the last few months, we have been seeing more persons continuing now to make their way to Barbados as part of the Welcome Stamp program. We have approximately just under 3,000 persons who have come with their spouses, and around 1,100 persons or so who have come with their dependents. And so we have been able successfully to compensate for the loss in short-term travel by bringing instead long-term visitors who are staying with us for a year or more, because in September of this year, we renewed the legislation, which allows many of the people who are already here with us to continue to stay with us, and we allowed new persons to make their applications and to make their way to Barbados. Now, if I can connect those welcome stamp guests with our main source markets, 34% of all of the applicants have come from the United States, interestingly, and around 24% of them have come from the UK, with those the remaining persons coming from Canada, countries in Africa, and across Europe. So that's something that people ask us all the time. We are actually preparing next month, hopefully, to go on the road and to have a number of interventions specifically in the US market. For the first time, what we saw with the advent of COVID was that the UK market, as a result of its closures, then we found ourselves in a position having an increased number of visitors out of the United States market. And so we have been pushing what we call the Sweet Summer Savings campaign in the United States market. And we are preparing to engage with our travel agent partners, our travel industry partners, with all of our tour operators out of the US market to ensure that we are able to further diversify even within our existing source markets. Now, in terms of new product on the market, we've just completed a complete audit of all of the tourism product on island, every attraction, every restaurant, every little shop and bar, nook and cranny all across the country. Because I think it's perhaps unfortunate that we all have to admit that across the region, many of our businesses did not make it through the onset of the pandemic. And some of the businesses that did make it through have done so just barely. And others are in need of some additional measure of support. And so these products that all across the country are now meant to be incorporated into our global marketing of brand Barbados, so that you're not just marketing sun, sea, and sand, but as part of our global destination marketing, you're able to see all of the unique product that Barbados has on island. Now, aside from that, we have the established accommodation product that has been refreshed. We are pleased to welcome the South Seas Village at Sandals Royal that opened on July 1 of this year. We currently are also going to be seeing, or have begun to see, the Ocean 2 Hotel Group, Ocean 2 Beach Club and Spa. It's an amazing boutique property, which I viewed just a few weeks ago. That's preparing to come on stream next month, and we're looking forward to welcoming that. But I want to also share two innovations that have started as a result of the pandemic, and we're very happy that our hotel partners have come on stream. We were able to welcome earlier this year a dedicated COVID lab, fully equipped, fully stood up at our first hotel. So the Crane Beach Resort now has a dedicated on-site, in-property lab that is capable of doing all of the PCR and COVID-related testing. We also have a second lab, which has subsequently been opened at the Sandals Hotel. And equally so, we are preparing to welcome a third private lab, which opened on Monday of this week at the Bayview Hospital. So now Barbados is able not just to have the Dos Santos laboratory to service our testing needs, but in our tourism industry and among our travel partners, we have two hotels with fully stood up dedicated labs on site that have also been servicing the industry. And we want to really celebrate that, because it has been important for us to get persons tested. Now, in terms of Barbados's travel protocols, I came in and I did hear some of the conversation with Belize. Barbados does require 3 days prior to arrival a negative PCR test. We do not accept any other test for entry as an entry requirement. It is a PCR test. When those persons arrive in Barbados, all persons, let me start first with vaccinated guests, are required to test on arrival. They can test in the Granby Adams International Airport before going to their hotels, or they can test in their hotels. As I've mentioned, we have in-house facilities in 2 hotels, but we also have medical teams assigned to every hotel that has been approved for quarantine across the country. And those medical mobile teams can go out, and they do go out and they test, and everything is uploaded centrally in the Ministry of Health. And in order to leave that hotel, then you are required to share your negative COVID test from one of the local labs with your front desk in order to be released from quarantine. Now, that is for vaccinated visitors. And I wanted to stress that for a moment because I know that there has been quite a bit of chatter in the Barbados context around whether or not people are tested at the airport, if they're not tested at hotels. Every single traveler coming to Barbados must test either in the airport or in their hotels. And in order to be released from quarantine, they must show that they have that negative test result. So no one is cleared from quarantine to enter the community until after that has been completed. For unvaccinated visitors, and this is actually the minority of travelers, close to 90% of the travelers that are coming to Barbados from our major source markets are vaccinated. And so we have for unvaccinated visitors, persons are required to come also with a negative PCR test, but their quarantine time is 5 days. And they're required to quarantine for a period of 5 days, and then they take an exit test. And so the exit test then is done also by any of the local laboratories. And once that test has come back negative, then you are cleared for release from quarantine. So those are some of the key things that I know many people are asking for. Barbados is presently in the middle of a battle with the Delta variant, as is every other country across the region. Thankfully, because of the high level of vaccination around our visiting and our traveling public, those cases are not really associated with border at all. They are associated with circumstances outside of the border, but we are very confident that so far we have had very few cases coming across the border, and those that have come across the border because of our quarantine policy, they have been identified and picked up very quickly before integration. Now, finally,
Minister, we've got 7 minutes left altogether for questions and answers on this. So just want
okay, so I was just finalizing my last comment. And I wanted to make the point that beyond airlift and capacity for November, for the rest of the year, we're looking forward to a strong winter season. And we're hopeful that aside from the tourism-specific activity for the destination, that we're also able to see a number of key initiatives coming into the industry, specifically from cruise, which is going to pick up in November, and then a number of investment type activities that we will share anchored around the aviation sector. And that would be my final comment. Thank you very much.
Okay, we've got a number of questions already. Gay Myers wants to know the number of arrivals from the US so far this year.
Give me 1 second. I'm going to pull that number up. I have it actually on my screen. So if I can just pull that up for you, and I'll share that momentarily. But what I can tell you is that we've been actually really intrigued by the fact that this year, because of what has happened with COVID, we are, is this the right one? No, that's not the right document. All right, so just give me 1 second. I'll pull that up for you because I do have the data. All right, can I take another question in the interim?
Yeah, certainly.
Right back to
Marlon Madden wants to know, says that visitors continue to complain about the delay in getting back their COVID-19 results. What's being done to ease the backlog, especially given the planned increase in flights in the coming months? And are there any plans to provide some sort of compensation for those who have waited for more than 3 days to get back results?
So thanks for the question, Marlon. I think the last time that we had delayed test results was in January. We hear now up until Saturday of last week, we had a number of delays with arrivals with test results, but those have subsequently been resolved. And you've heard the reports coming out of the Ministry of Health and the Best of Santos. So it is not an ongoing and a continuing challenge. However, I think the most important issue here is why I chose to make mention of the new additional laboratory capacity that we have. Visitors now have options of testing at any of the facilities using their mobile facilities and using their in-hotel room facilities to allow for them to get their test results. So the idea of bringing 1,800 passengers through the airport, for example, on a Sunday, and having all of those combined with local numbers in a single laboratory has now seen a situation where we are spreading the density around among the various labs that are doing the tests for visitors. And so we hope that going forward, we should have fewer challenges. If I can come back to the US question that was raised earlier, I want to be able to give that number very quickly if I can, Johnson.
Certainly.
All right, so up until the end of August, and I'm going to use the end of August number, from the US, we had approximately just around over 5,000 odd visitors at the end of August. That number would have increased, I'm sorry, wrong number, we've had this one, 16,000, I'm sorry, 16,000 US visitors by the end of August. All
That's
right.
the total for the year, yeah?
No, that's for the month. That's the total for the month of August.
For just the month of August. Yeah.
The month of August, 16,000 visitors in total for this year, And from the United States market, it was 4,854 persons coming in. So 4,854 persons during the month of August, and the total for the year would have been 16,000 up until end of August.
Okay, Jim Byers in Canada. Hoping you will address the Canadian Airlines. Which ones are coming in? When are they scheduled to come in, and what's happening there?
Okay, so we currently have Air Canada already flying back to Barbados. We have a Thursday, Saturday, and a Sunday flight on Air Canada, and we're expecting to have the usual travel on WestJet beginning for the festive season later in the year. But we already do have the Canadian flights 3 days a week.
And someone anonymous asked, which markets are American flying out of, especially as it pertains to the new flights since the beginning this month?
So far we have American Airlines flying out of Miami, Newark, and then we have JetBlue flying out of New York and Charlotte. And we are preparing to open up the Boston route shortly, and then with Fort Lauderdale also a little later in the year.
Okay, and from Sarah Graves Gabadan, are the labs at Sandals and the Crane exclusively for the guests or open to other visitors as well?
They're open to anyone that needs to test. And so I have tested, for example, when I've traveled at the Crane lab, I have tested at Dos Santos lab. Many people, you can test wherever you wish. They are very much available to the public. And the beautiful thing about that is that aside from the actual physical lab, they have their mobile teams who can come out and swab you wherever you are, and then take your swab back into the lab and test you there.
Important to note, Minister, that if you choose to be tested at the airport, there is no cost, but if you choose one of those, is there a cost?
If you choose one of them, there is a cost, yes. So presently it is free at the airport. If you choose, however, to test in your hotel, there is a cost attached to that. And so in the coming weeks to months, I'm sure that there will continue to be further conversations around what those costs will be to ensure that there's affordability.
From Ursula in Barzi in the UK, beyond the revenue generated from the welcome stamp fees, is you able to provide any insight on the economic impact of the 5,000 people who are in Barbados under the program?
That's actually been amazing, because we have had, and this is a difference between, again, as I'm saying, compensating for the absence of short-term traveler spend, visitor spend, with long-term visitors. So you have had so many persons who are here in the welcome stamp who have purchased property, who have then become investors and who decided, well, you know what, I want to purchase this piece of land and I want to build condos on this property. We've had people, I met one couple who moved their catamaran business from one place into another and moved it here to Barbados, and then even after they went back at the end of their welcome stamp. You have rental properties, both private properties for landlords, and then villas and condos. You have car rentals. Car rental companies have done a phenomenal, had a phenomenal time in some instances because they made cars available. Schools, both public and private, but especially private, have benefited from students being enrolled in classes. And so the run-on effect has been significant. So you're no longer spending for 2 weeks or 3 weeks, you're spending for a whole year, which has a run-on effect.
I know we're quickly running out of time. We're just about 20 minutes past the hour, and this is when St. Martin is supposed to be on. So the minister, if you're on, please turn on your camera and on your microphone so we can move quickly. But there are a couple of quick questions that we'd like you to deal with, Minister, and two of them from Melanie and Jim are related. In terms of where the flights are coming from Canada, these all from Toronto?
They're all from Toronto Pearson at this point, and a series of connecting flights, obviously, from other places within Canada, but they are all at this point from Pearson International in Toronto.
And from Gay, how long will the curfew last, and can hotel restaurants stay open beyond curfew for hotel guests?
What I can tell you is that if there's anything that we have all learned since COVID is that I cannot tell you what will happen tomorrow. So I can't tell you how long the curfew will last. I think the curfew was the last thing that any of us wanted to have to put in place, especially given the numbers that we're seeing now. But as soon as it can be lifted, I give you the commitment that the government of Barbados is actively going to be looking at having it removed.
Minister, we have to move to St. Martin now, French St. Martin, but there is another question from Marlon Madden. You may want to just stay on and do that, answer it live. You should be able to see it from your computer, and you can answer it live to him so he can get a response. Thank you so much, Minister, and thank you everyone for the questions. We've got only two countries left today. One is French St. Martin, and the other is Antigua and Barbuda at 12:40. Let's over. I noticed that you're on, St. Martin, Ida.
Good morning, Johnson. Thank you for having me to do the press briefing regarding French St. Martin. So in terms of news, our airport, Grand Cause Espérance International Airport that goes to Guadeloupe and Martinique is open and fully operating. We have exciting news as well from the US carriers from the United States. They have all resumed, and we have even been added flights. Frontier Airlines started their service on July 10th. So we do have now weekly airlifts on Saturdays from Miami and Orlando. And American Airlines have started a new flight out of Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas. From the Canadian market, From the Canadian markets, all for Canadian Airlines will have programs St. Martin this fall and winter. Sunwing should begin soon. They have scheduled it for the end of September. WestJet will begin early November, and Transat and Air Canada will begin just before Christmas. In terms of the entry requirements, so as many of you may know, we have a mandatory EHAS system that has to be approved. So that is directed by Dutch St. Martin. There is also a COVID insurance for the non-residents of about $30. You also need to have a negative PCR test, 72 hours to come to St. Martin, or a negative antigen test if you are fully vaccinated. Regarding the inter-islands requirements, unvaccinated people over 11 years old traveling to Grand Cars Airport from Guadeloupe and Martinique must provide an overridden reason. You also must provide the negative result of a PCR test of less than 72 hours or antigen test of less than 48 hours. For the vaccinated people over 11 years old traveling to Grand Cars Airport from Guadeloupe and Martinique, no mandatory test, no overridden reasons needed, and no isolation is required. In terms of curfew for French St. Martin, we do have a curfew at the moment that runs from 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. So that has been shortened as of last week. Before that, it was 8 p.m. So as the situation improves, the sanitary conditions, we will see that curfew lifted. In terms of the new daily COVID-19 cases, we are about 107 new cases for the week of August 30th, which is a significant decrease of the week of August 19th. In terms of passengers flying from the US, which is our primary market, since the beginning of the year, we have about 128,000 passengers that flew to St. Martin. In terms of new hotels, we are happy to announce that most of our hotels have opened back. In terms of the newest additions, we have the Orion Bay Beach Hotel that opened in January. The Secrets Resorts and Spa that was previously the Riu Hotel has reopened in April. We have L'Hotel L'Esplanade that will be reopening in October. Belmont La Samana has closed for the season, but will reopen in November. And we also have the Love Hotel in Grand Cause Village that has reopened in 2021. So as you may know, St. Martin is known for all its boutique charming hotels. Most of them have reopened. In terms of activities, we still do have all of our wonderful activities, and most of them have reopened, if not all of them. So we have the SXM Parachute, the Gyrocopter, Lottery Farm that offers hiking trails and a natural spring water pool. Also, learn to make your own perfume at Tijon Parfumerie. They are all open to welcome visitors. Some of our attractions as well are still there, going to spend a day to Pinel Island or Tentamar Island, which are part of the natural reserves. We also have the nice hiking trails to the highest peak of the island, such as Pic Paradis, but also in the natural reserve, such as the Froussard Trail and Grand Caille. What has been up and coming, especially during this pandemic as well, all the artists have been inspired. So what was not seen in St. Martin before is a lot of the wall art. So going to the capital of the French side, just as Marigot, or even to Phillipsburg on the Dutch side, all around the island, you will see beautiful wall art. More attractions would be the electric bike, some horseback riding. You can also paddle and yoga in Grand Cause Bay. And we also offer now beach cinema at Le Temps des Cerises, which is located on the beach in Grand Cause Village. A new exciting event that will be coming up soon in November is Taste Me St. Martin Culinary Festival. We are known to be the culinary capital of the Caribbean, so we wanted to highlight that aspect of the destination. This year for 2021, we decided to highlight the romance, traveling at 2 in St. Martin. And for 2022, we're really gonna put a focus on the year of gastronomy. So we will be showcasing the local culinary heritage. There will be live cooking demonstrations, mystery clients. There are many chefs from the US, also from France, celebrity chefs, also that will be joining us on this wonderful festival. Also to highlight and encourage our youngsters to go down that route, we will also be having a mini Top Chef competition in our vocational high school. There you go for our highlights and updates of French St. Martin. I'm willing to have any questions that you may have, answer them.
Thank you so very much, Ida, lovely. And of course, Gay Myers, I sometimes say travel right up her excellence extraordinaire, and I mean it. She wants to know whether there are new flights into Grand Cause Airport, first of all.
No, there are no new flights into Grand Cause Airport. So we do have the 2 airline companies that we always had, which is Air Antilles Express and Air Caraïbes, which goes to St. Bart's, Martinique, and Guadeloupe.
And also any flights from San Juan into Grand Cause?
Not into Grand Cause, but into St. Martin, Dutch St. Martin.
Earlier, we had a question relating to the differences in protocols between the Dutch and the French, and wanted to know how the two are collaborating. Can you elaborate, please?
So both offices are collaborating. So as you know, there are still 2 different administrations. So in terms of the sanitary protocol, the Dutch side will have their own and the French side have their own, but we know that both governments are in touch. The international airport is on the Dutch side. So they have a protocol with the EHAS form and also the insurance. But once you're on St. Martin, most establishments, we do have the same protocol, sanitary, when you're going to the hotels or going to the restaurants or taking part in certain activities. There's a slight difference with the curfew. On the French side, the curfew is at 9 p.m. for now, and on the Dutch side, it's at 11 p.m. But we do collaborate. especially in terms of the insurance, as well if there's a mishap on the French side of a tourist coming in from the US, for example, and they have COVID, there's a whole protocol that's being put in place to take care of that visitor.
Okay, so the Dutch has the mandatory insurance.
Yes.
That's down to $15 per adult. And how does that work on the French side?
So on the French side, so there is an entire protocol that's been established. So all the hotels on the French side are aware of it, and also the villas. So if you would contract COVID on the French side, the hotel knows exactly which number to call with the insurance. And then there's a whole protocol in terms of where do you have to go if you need to be evacuated, or in terms of isolation as well. The hotels would have to isolate you for X amount of days. Is it 7 days? And then they report to the insurance company.
So you do need to have the mandatory insurance as well for French
Yes,
and Martin.
to come on the French side, you do need also to have that mandatory insurance.
And the cost for it, is it the same?
It is the same, yes.
Okay. I don't see any other questions here, but we still do have quite a few minutes to play with. So you have some time to elaborate on any key areas that you'd like to elaborate on until we get some more questions.
Okay, so in terms, if you want to depart from St. Martin to go back to your origin destination, we do have the pharmacies that provide antigen tests and the labs as well. It is roughly about 40 euros on the French side. They are available. Most of them are open from 8 to 4 p.m. You can get tested. You can also get tested on Juliana International Airport, and it's roughly about $125. What I can say is that St. Martin is, it's not a mass tourism destination. So we have space to move around. We have a lot of boutique hotels that are open, the restaurants, the activities. Everyone have been reopened so far. Right now, it's a bit closed because it's the hurricane season. So on the French side, many hotels would be closed, but they reopen mid-October.
Melanie Reffers usually talks about the culinary in French St. Martin. How's that? Oh, here she goes. She's asking, are the Lolos open yet in Grand Cars?
Yes,
and while you respond to that, talk about the culinary as well.
Yes, so for the culinary, we are known to be the culinary capital of the Caribbean. With both French and Dutch side, we have about 350 to 400 restaurants that we are very proud of, ranging from the Lolos, the local grill huts, to very high-end gastronomy and new wonderful experiences. I can talk about the Flavor Academy on the Dutch side that have just reopened recently, and also La Villa Hibiscus and Pic Paradis. It's a 5-course meal where they just take your diet, what you like, what you prefer, and then they just propose you a nice meal, a wonderful meal. So it's not that expensive to dine in St. Martin. There's a range of variety from local cuisine to Creole to high-end French gourmet cuisine as well.
So just to be clear, direct response to Melanie's question about the Lolos.
They have reopened, yes, sorry.
Okay.
And Marigold and Grand Cars, they are open.
Brilliant. And Gay wants to know how many hotel rooms are open right now.
We have about, including with the villas, 1,400 rooms that are open on French St. Martin.
Okay. There are no other questions. Let me ask about other attractions as well. That's one of the things that has been coming up. What do you have any new attractions, anything different right now or in the works?
Okay, so at La Trifon, we you can hike, you can zip line, but there's also a natural spring pool. There will be a kiddie section opening for the season in November. They are working on it. We also have the electric bikes that you can also do. What we want to promote more as well is well-being. So we will be offering a lot of yoga classes. We're working on a program regarding that. Also, the wall art is not new, but we are putting more focus and importance on it right now. So as you will be traveling around the island, you will see these beautiful pieces, art pieces done by local painters. So that's quite interesting. We do have new restaurants. For example, in Friars Bay, 978 restaurants has reopened. You can also now more and more have painting classes, culinary gourmet as well, tasting cheese and wine. So we do offer more and more these new experiences.
And according to French Saint Martin expert refers, the Lolo's best example of Eat Local on the French side. So what's the Eat Local program like on the French side?
Eat local. So you will start your morning by going to one of the Lolos to have your Johnny cake and your fried fish. So that would be a nice experience. Then after, you can head over to one of the guava berry emporium or the guava berry shop in Marigot as well to taste the guava berry liqueur that's unique to St. Martin, or have a few rum punch. On the waterfront as well, you can have your coconut water and all these fresh juices. I would recommend as well you go over to the Rasta Garden by Jabash and Bellevue, where you will have all the local herbs to do your bush tea, or to, you can cook your eggplants and all of that fresh produce. You can also head over to the waterfront or Grand Cross for lunch and also for dinner. There are the Lolos, but we also have lots of local restaurants that you may not know, but that do offer that Lolo experience as well. Chez Yvette and French Quarter, Villa Royale as well. You have l'Auberge des Îles on the marina on the French side, where you can have that local experience as well.
Okay, well, thank you so much. Colin James of Antigua and Barbuda is next, and is on actually, and ready to go. Very quickly, Ida, before we move over to Colin James, the presentation, it's been asked for, and can you just send it to me? You can, as a PDF, email it to me so I can share it with everyone there. I appreciate it very, very much. Thanks once again, and all the best.
Thank you, Johnson. Thank you for having me.
Okay, and so we're our final presenter for the day. Everybody here has been exceptionally good, exceptionally patient, and very much engaged. And I really do want to thank the media and everyone else who've been on and remaining engaged in all of that for 3 hours. And we've got to do it again tomorrow. So Colin James from Antigua and Barbuda, you're the final presenter. Over to you.
Thank you, Johnson, for that introduction. They've saved the best for last. And so I am happy that I have this opportunity on behalf of the Antigua Barbuda Tourism Authority and the destination to give our update. So if you will permit me, Johnson, just to briefly share my screen and take you through our presentation on what's been happening in the destination since then. Okay, can everyone see that?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Good, here we go. Yeah, I just wanted to let everybody know that we are open as a destination to visitors. First in the Caribbean to open on the 1st of June last year, and we are committed to staying open. Just to know, we have put in place very strong protocols to ensure that, number one, the people who live on these two islands are safe, and number two, our visitors who come to see us are also safe. So just wanted to clear the air that we don't have a requirement that all travelers must be vaccinated. On the contrary, it's whether you are fully vaccinated, whether you're partially or non-vaccinated, all that's required is a PCR test. As of now, taken within 7 days, but from the 1st of October, that sample must have been taken within 4 days. And this includes transient passengers as well. So we want to make sure that our protocols are maintain the safety on island, but also are not that onerous that you can't get your test in time. So all passengers arriving must have that PCR test from the 1st of October taken within 4 days of their arrival to Antigua and Barbuda. Children as well, below the age of 5 do not require a test, but from the 1st of October, all children above the age of 5 must also, who accompany their parents to Antigua, must have a PCR test. And so we encourage, our clients, we encourage our partners to note the change. As of now, it is above the age of 12 that's requiring the test, but from 1st of October, it's above the age of 5 years. So the protocols will have changed from that date. Yeah, I just wanted to give an update as well about what has been happening in industry for the past 2 months. And July and August has been phenomenal for us. It has been extremely busy. It has been the busiest months for visitor arrivals since the pandemic. We had 12 flights per week from the UK and all our US carriers back, with the exception of United, 2 flights daily from Miami, flights out of London Heathrow and London Gatwick on both the British Airways and Virgin, JetBlue with additional flights out of New York, New Jersey, as well as JFK, Atlanta, Delta, and out of JFK as well. And so the destination has been well served, and we are seeing this in spite of Canada still remaining closed. We are seeing a phenomenal growth in visitor arrivals to take advantage of that pent-up demand that the industry has been seeing. The good news is Canada opens up on October the 3rd with our first flight with Air Canada resuming. Since the second wave will start on October 3rd out of Toronto with Air Canada, and we have WestJet and Sunwing committed to coming back to the destination in the first week in November. So I mentioned July being the best ever July. We had 23,405 visitors in July. This surpassed our July figures of 23,031 in July 2019. And bear in mind that July 2019 was the best year for visitor air arrivals into Antigua ever. And that was the year we had Carnival, and the phenomenal growth that we have seen coming back post-COVID has really, really been strong for the destination. And again, it's based on the marketing efforts, the engagement with the trade and our partners, but also the fact that this is a safe destination. It has really helped to fuel the demand for people returning. August was the best August ever. We continued that trend with 18,000 arrivals. We saw the UK having their best figures ever out of the UK in the month of August to the destination. So again, strong growth, strong demand, and we are seeing that continuing even into the month of September. So we're seeing the evolution. Here's our visitor arrival stats. Since we started the pandemic in January, we are down to 7,000. And July, we peaked up at 23,000. We'll be back in showing the cyclicality that happens in visitor arrivals. September is traditionally the slowest month of the year, so we are waiting to see what happens in September as we continue. But the key message is Antigua is open, we remain open, we have strong protocols, and the confidence that our airline partners have been showing, seeing a strong growth in the air arrivals to the destination.
Colin, let me just jump in there. You sound a little bit low. Is it
possible to
just
project my voice a bit more?
Yeah, that's better.
I will certainly do that. I tend to speak not very loudly, but thanks for letting me know that, and I will definitely raise my voice. How have we been controlling what's happening on island, particularly with the COVID-19 virus? I'm particularly pleased that we have a very high vaccination rate. It's at about 45% of our population. Some 43,000 people have at least received their first shot. I think 35,000 of that have been totally vaccinated. The resorts in Antigua and Barbados has been driving that effort in getting staff to be vaccinated, and in also ensuring that we present an atmosphere for guests that are safe, and so that they feel very comfortable not just only staying at the resorts, but participating in other tours and excursions because of the high rate of vaccination. So 60% of the resort staff are fully vaccinated. Some resorts, it ranges up to 100% of their staff who are interacting with guests being vaccinated. So we have a sun, sea, safe protocols. A remarkable amount of training has gone on in Antigua and Barbuda, where some 15,000 people within the industry were trained in the new safety protocols. We ask people to maintain their masks at all times on island and stay, 9.5 coconuts apart. So you be spaced out and make sure that you remain safe. Safety for the people who live on these islands and safety for our guests is paramount as we move forward. I just wanted to share with you a little video that demonstrates that.
Welcome back to Antigua and Barbuda, your space in the sun.
While you're here, it is our job to keep you safe.
So we've been practicing all recommended COVID-19 protocols.
We are now fully committed to our nation's vaccine drive. and the entire tourism family has acted as one.
encouraging and assisting our hotels, resorts, taxi operators, retail stores, vendors, and restaurants to get inoculated.
We are all doing our part by taking the vaccine, protecting ourselves, our families, and you, our valued guests.
You can trust that we have done our best to ensure that when you visit,
The only things you leave with are amazing memories.
So there you have it, a concerted effort, even supported by our Minister of Tourism and led by him and the industry in ensuring that we encourage as many of the stakeholders in industry to be vaccinated, and that has been working remarkably well for us. So there's still a lot to do on island. All these accommodations, all these restaurants, all these tours and attractions, whether you're swimming with the stingrays, visiting the donkey sanctuary, zip lining, circumnavigating on a catamaran around the island, it's all safe and it's all Sunsea Safe certified for your enjoyment of the guests who visit Antigua and Barbados, but also for their safety as well. How are we looking going forward? I think the forecast from the industry is very strong. Although we are seeing spikes in the COVID numbers, although there is that unpredictability in the market, the bookings are coming later than normal. We're still going into the winter season fairly strong. We sampled quite a number of our hotels to get a feel of what type of occupancy that they're seeing, and the larger resorts in particular, are beginning to project a higher forecast. So we are looking forward to a very, very strong winter season. And let's just have a brief look at the numbers. These are forecasts that we got September the 9th. For October, currently at 48% occupancy compared to 52% in 2019. November, looking at a 63 versus 69 in 2019 and 66 in December versus 69. But what's interesting to note, guys, is that the figures change daily. And based on what we have been seeing in the months of July, August, and even going into September, we forecast that these numbers are going to be flipped and we're going to be seeing even better occupancy than we're projecting right now. Quite a number of bookings are coming in late, within 2 weeks of people traveling. The COVID situation is very, very fluid. Antigua and Barbados for the UK right now is still on the green list, but that might change with the spikes that we have been seeing. We're on the number 3 CDC list. We were at number 1 a few weeks ago. So everything is fluid. But I believe what we have put in place are strong protocols that ensure that guests are safe, people on island are safe, and there is such a strong demand for the destination that we still think that we are in a position to continue to work towards having a very, very strong winter season with our partners. So new beginnings, what's new? Robert De Niro's Nobu restaurant has opened up in Barbados. That's the world's newest Nobu restaurant. We have guests leaving Antigua just to go over to have lunch or to have dinner at that restaurant so that they can experience, the Nobu experience. So developments continue at a very strong pace in Barbados, particularly with the PLH, Peace, Love, and Happiness, the villas. You have residential plots going for like $3 million US just for the plot of land. So a lot has been happening over in Barbados. A lot has been happening here in Antigua, Tamron Hills with 43 new ocean suites. This will open up in November again, adding a really great property to our repertoire here in Antigua and Barbuda, and also really taking advantage of the villa market, which has really, really boomed since COVID, as people are looking for more spacious accommodations, secluded accommodations where they can be self-contained with their families. We have seen a remarkable uptick in the villa business. The Siboney Beach Club as well has just been refurbished with additional units. And on the cruise side, we have our 5th cruise berth that has opened up recently, which has positioned us now to take the largest ocean-going vessels, the Oasis class ships, and that's now ready to go as the cruise industry has restarted. But I think what we're very excited about is that Frontier Airlines will start operating to Antigua on Saturday, December 4th with a weekly service out of Orlando. And that's been really, really, truly good news. It's a remarkable sense of confidence. Frontier, we're the only Eastern Caribbean destination that they have launched in their first wave, in addition to the Turks and Caicos and Belize, coming into the Caribbean region. So we're particularly pleased with that and working to really get things going with Frontier Airlines. Yeah. Just wanted to let you know, cruise has restarted in July with this Seabourn Odyssey, which was our first cruise ship since March of, I think, 2020, when we went into a total lockdown. And also the Windstar Breeze visited a few days later in July. Those are small luxury ships. They call at second ports in Antigua at Falmouth Harbor. So we were able to extend the business that we'd have gotten from the cruise industry. We have strong protocols in place, I think even stronger than air arrivals for the cruise industry. All passengers have to be tested. All tours and excursions are in a bubble. The folks who interact with those cruise guests, even the shopping excursions that they go are guided. Everybody has to be vaccinated. And so we are taking a special effort to support the cruise industry in their efforts to get restarted and to do it in a socially responsible way. So we're particularly pleased that in August, we saw Celebrity Equinox, which was the largest vessel coming into port with over 1,000 passengers, and also very adjacent to our new 5th cruise berth, which is now ready to take the largest ocean-going vessel. So we are prepared, protocols are in place, tremendous amount of training, and we are eagerly anticipating the full restart of the cruise industry in October as we go into the season. Also, from a yachting standpoint, Sailing Week will go ahead from April to May next year in 2022, and we're particularly pleased that a specific strategy has been organized around our yachting sector. So we are committed to really hosting a safe regatta in 2022, where we'll have 6 days of world-class racing. As you know, Antigua Sailing Week is the 5th largest sailing regatta in the world, the largest one in the region, held every year, except the past 2 years where we have been having challenges with COVID, and we look forward to really having a safe regatta in 2022. I want to be able to take all the questions at the end of the presentation, which I'll be concluding shortly. So if you have any questions at all, just hold them, stick a pin, and I'll be happy to answer them, or you can drop them in the chat. And we have folks from my team who would be able to address them in their interim. So we're also committed to some strong capacity building in the yachting sector with our Youth to Keel program, where we have a concerted program in training young Antiguans in the sailing industry. And many have gone on to really be first-class sailors around the world. We have had, for example, 4 Antiguan young women who were the first women to row across the Atlantic 2 years ago, the Antigua and Barbados Island Girls. And we're particularly pleased of how this program, particularly for mentorship for women in yachting and sailing, has really been going. And so that's part of our strategy as we go forward with our yachting sector, to make sure that it is competitive and it really attracts the very best in sailing throughout the world. So we're going to be racing responsibly, making sure that these events are held in adherence to the protocols. There will be no organized events outside of what's being hosted by Antigua Sailing Week. And we're going to make sure that there's even a designated COVID-19 compliance officer to ensure that we stick to the protocols that we put in place, to make sure that the yachting visitors who visit us for Sailing Week and to visit us for the season are in fact safe, and the people who interact with them are kept safe as well.
Colin, we only have 7 minutes left, yeah?
I am just about winding down. So you wanted to know what has been driving these numbers, in particularly our Sun, Your Space in the Sun campaign. We did quite a comprehensive bit of monitoring the industry as to what people were saying and what they were looking for coming out of COVID. People were looking for space, people were looking for calm, people were looking for things that were clean and spotless and not crowded. And out of that, we saw and we launched Your Space in the Sun campaign, where we give you the calm to catch up, space to reconnect. You see examples of what our crowd restrictions mean, our spotlessly clean venues, our idea of social distancing, so that you can have what you require, but also in a very beautiful part of the world where you are safe, it's easy to get to, and you can experience all that Antigua and Barbados has to offer. And it has really been working for us. And so I'd like to, on that note, just wrap up with a brief 30-second clip of your Space in the Sun campaign, and then I'll be happy to answer your questions. Thank you, folks. The floor is now open.
Yeah, we've got some questions lined up already. Marlon Martin in Barbados. Are you able to say what the response has been like so far for regional travel since Antigua implemented the discount on taxes?
There has been a strong response. I think Liat now operates 5 flights a week, barring Tuesdays and Wednesdays. They are flying every day to quite a number of destinations in the region. We also have Caribbean Airlines that are back with a weekly service that connects Jamaica, Antigua, Barbados. And so we are seeing the uptick in regional travel. We are currently in discussions with Silver Airways to resume service. Silver superseded Seabourn out of San Juan, Puerto Rico. And so we are in the process of re-engaging with Silver to start back service to the US, to Puerto Rico in particular. Inter-Caribbean Airways also serves the destination to the BVI and further afield. And so we are seeing that uptick. I think it has been well received. But what I'd love to see is the other governments follow suit to what Antigua and Barbuda has done in looking to reduce the taxes on regional travel, which is needed more than ever before to encourage people to continue to travel in the region and to continue to connect. But, you know, we saw in July in particular, a 50% recovery of the rates of travel that we would normally see in the region during that time. And I think that's remarkable considering that quite a number of countries do still have strong protocols. It's difficult to be tested and sometimes to turn your tests around in a particular time for travel and that sort of thing. But we are seeing that uptick in travel, yes.
From Gay Myers, how many properties are certified accommodations?
I would say, Gay, almost every property on island are certified. I would imagine that we have so many villas and Airbnbs, and the government has gone on a comprehensive program. We have over 400 Airbnb locations in Antigua. On our website, there is a list of all those properties that are COVID certified where you can stay. And once you have your negative PCR test, you can stay at those properties. But I would well say that it's you know, it's well over, it's in the hundreds if you can include the villas and the Airbnbs that have been certified to operate post-COVID.
And Melanie refers, welcome back from Dubai, she says. Is the food market downtown open to visitors at this time?
The market, absolutely, Melanie, and we look forward to hosting you again soon. The market is open. Once you go on a guided tour with your you're fully masked and you are able to move around from your resort. That's one of the things that I think that has made Antigua stand out separately. There is, once you've met the criteria for staying at a COVID certified resort, that you're vaccinated or you have your PCR test and you're staying there, then you can go on guided tours, you can go on COVID certified tours. So they can organize a COVID certified guided tour to the marketplace, and once you're socially distanced and you're wearing your mask, you can partake of those excursions, yes.
And from Adrian Laws, you said all cruise tours are in a bubble. Does this also apply to ordinary tours?
Yes, right now, most of the cruise lines are not allowing tours, external tours. They are only allowing their guests to go on tours that are booked through the cruise lines. So they are guaranteeing that those guests will be going on a tour where your guide will be vaccinated, you stayed in the bubble, you're not allowed to wander off on your own because at the end of the day, you're reboarding a ship. And so tours are fully certified and fully guided and organized on board with the cruise lines, with their local partners and vendors on island.
And thank you to Maria, your colleague, who just shared this information that there are currently over 400 certified properties in Antigua and Barbuda. The listing is on Visit Antigua and Antigua Barbuda. Visit antiguabarbuda.com if you want the full listing there. Colin James, CEO of the Antigua and Barbuda Tourism Authority. We've got to include that. Sometimes we forget that. Thank you so very much for the update. And I want to thank all of you who've been with us from 10 o'clock this morning for 3 long hours, listening to country after country after country, and you remain engaged and asking the questions and so on. You've really been lovely. Tomorrow, it will begin at 10 o'clock with the Minister of Tourism from Dominica, followed by the Minister of Tourism for St. Lucia, then Glen Beach of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, then Grenada, Anguilla, Trinidad, Montserrat, Tobago, and we end with St. Kitts and Nevis tomorrow. So we've got another full day, and I really thank you for your patience, for your cooperation and collaboration. And we'll see you tomorrow, everyone. Thank you so very much. Those of you who